and the respect of equality between people.
But if you are right, and if the law of the jungle is in essence what we are seeing developing...
But I don't understand your question. When you look at Donald Trump putting in question the sovereignty of Greenland, this is not the law of jungle?
No, I think
you should take out your lenses and look at what's going on.
I'm asking you, if you are right, and if we are seeing the rise of a United States which has more in common, to use your words, with Russia and China than it does with the democracies of Western Europe...
In this regard, it is obvious.
Then what chance does Europe have in this geopolitical arena to become a global security superpower?
But it's not a matter of chance, it's a matter of duty. This is a necessity for the stability of the world. You see, you are forgetting that the power of Donald Trump and of the US administration is going now to face a lot of limits. They're going to have the midterms. One day, the US people are going to awaken. One day, the counterpowers, the Supreme Court and many others, the judicial system, the media, they are going to wake up. Are they going to let Donald Trump do whatever he wants and to erase the democracy in the US? So I'm counting on the fact that somebody playing such a bully policy cannot do whatever he wants. He has, at one point, to face some reaction. The security battleground is Europe, and the ideological battleground is also Europe. And that's why I think we need a roadmap. The roadmap should be very clear. Defend our security and defend democracy.
Dominique de Villepin, we have to end there. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this hard talk.
That was Hard Talk. I'm Saroja Coelho. You're listening to CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio on CBC. We're live downtown on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the app and on YouTube. It is already above zero in Winnipeg. Our temperature right now is 2 degrees, and we're going to go to a high of 5 today with a mix of sun and cloud in Winnipeg. Different story elsewhere. A snowfall warning in effect for parts of central and northern Manitoba this morning. This is Flin Flon, Thompson, Churchill, heavy snow today and through the weekend. We're talking about total amounts of 15 to 25 centimeters. So we'll walk through the other centers as the show goes on. Morning show is on until 8:37. If you need us on the drive, walk, or roll, it's 788-3093. And let's say good morning to our team now. May McKillop is back directing the program and covering the commute today. Good morning, May. Good morning, Abby Adeyemi, back behind the controls, our technical producer, and Abby covers the weather on air. And good morning to our YouTube producer, Mr. Kevin Nipatebo, saying hello to you if you're watching on streaming. Lauren Donnelly's in our news center today, and she has our early morning headlines.
Good morning. Brandon is recruiting doctors from overseas to meet a growing demand for care. The city has added 4 new physicians to its roster in the past year, and the vacant lot where the Sutherland Hotel once stood on Main Street won't be vacant for long. The landmark was gutted by a fire in January, but the owner of the property says he has big plans for a new build. We'll have more details on that coming up in your next local news.
All right. Thanks very much, Lauren.
Thank you.
So Lauren's back with us throughout the morning, of course. Well, I mentioned Winnipeg and our forecast today, looking like that mix of sun and cloud and a high of 5. Over in Brandon, though, becoming cloudy and light snow this afternoon with a risk of freezing rain. Winds are going to pick up a high around 0, so that could be some sketchy driving. And then in Thompson, as I said, snow begins early this morning, 5 to 10 centimeters for you to begin with a high of minus 12. All right, the show today in the first hour, high school entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial hopefuls are facing off this weekend. They want to prove they have the right stuff to sell their products in the quote-unquote real world. So we're going to talk to a student and find out what the local event I'm referring to is all about. Also today, big day, of course, the swearing in of Canada's next Prime Minister, Liberal leader Mark Carney. So we will hear more about that. There's a special plan on CBC here as well. And a little bit later in the first hour of the program, CBC Marketplace investigates a troubling housing trend, sex for rent listings. We have a full interview, but you'll hear it first on World Report. That's next.
Today on Q with Tom Power.
The actress Sandra Oh is a Canadian icon, and for her latest film, she took on a real challenge. A future in which climate change has been solved, but everyone must end their time on Earth at age 50.
I'm not ready. No one is ever ready.
She'll be here to tell you about the film and why it spoke specifically to her. That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel-Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. Outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will meet with the Governor-General this morning to submit his resignation. The new Liberal leader, Mark Carney, will take his place as Canada's next Prime Minister. A swearing-in ceremony will get underway at Rideau Hall later today. Carney is expected to lead a smaller cabinet focusing on handling the trade war with the U.S. And CBC News has learned that many ministers involved in those negotiations will be part of Carney's inner circle. Janice McGregor joins us from our Parliamentary Bureau in Ottawa with more. Janice, so who's in and who's out?
John, Mark Carney's challenge today is to deliver change and continuity at the same time, because this is still a Liberal government that tomorrow has to focus on the same top priority it had yesterday, defending against Donald Trump's threats. The three major ministers out working on that file yesterday, Mélanie Joly, who is leading on the diplomatic front, chairing talks with G7 foreign ministers, Dominic LeBlanc and François-Philippe Champagne, who've been out front on the tariff file, they all not just endorsed, but added their organizational muscle to Carney's leadership campaign, and they're going to continue to have big seats at the cabinet table. The latter two had a bit of a laugh about this after their meeting in Washington yesterday.
They understand that despite the fact that we may be in an electoral process in the coming weeks, that this is priority number one for Minister LeBlanc and I. You know, we will still be ministers during that period, or at least we'll see tomorrow. Certainly, no, there's a good chance.
But what of Carney's three rivals in the leadership campaign? Chrystia Freeland, who was on CNN singing Carney's praises yesterday, is coming back into cabinet as Carney's transport minister. But Karina Gould, who was previously a major player for Trudeau, is not. There have, however, been conversations about some kind of a role for Frank Baylis, who doesn't currently have a seat. Jonathan Wilkinson, who considered a run himself before endorsing Carney, is apparently still in. But this cabinet is going to be smaller.
So, Janice, a new Prime Minister, a new team. What do we know now about Carney's plan in the days ahead?
Well, he's going to meet reporters to take a few questions to set the tone after his ministry is sworn in, but then he's going to be off to meet with his new ministers to plot strategy. Carney isn't calling an election this weekend. He's planning a brief trip overseas first to meet with allies in the UK and France now that he's Prime Minister. That is a choice that also sets a tone on geopolitical relationships right now. But he has only days, really, to do a few things in government before everyone pivots into campaign mode, asking voters for a new mandate so they can keep governing beyond just a few weeks.
Janice McGregor in our Parliamentary Bureau. Janice, thank you.
You're welcome.
CBC Radio will cover the swearing-in of Mark Carney and his new cabinet today as they form Canada's government at a time of economic uncertainty. Join Catherine Cullen and myself live at 11 a.m. Eastern on CBC Radio 1 and on CBC News app. You just click on Local. Overseas, France is leading the charge against Donald Trump's latest European tariff threat. The U.S. president is vowing to slap a 200% levy on Europe's wines and other alcoholic drinks. Retaliation for reciprocal tariffs announced by the EU earlier in the week. Anna Cunningham has more.
Plus 200% sur prochaine cible de Donald Trump. De 200% les droits de douane.
200%. Everyone in France is talking about US President Donald Trump's latest tariff threat to the EU. If there's one thing that makes the French proud, it's a heritage of producing wine and champagne. Even the name champagne has protected status. It can only be used if it's produced in the Champagne region of France. Outside of that, it's sparkling wine. Europe sends close to $5 billion worth of wine each year to the US. French Prime Minister François Bayrou is in disbelief. Who isn't able to see that this is something that will cause a trade crisis, he says. If you don't stand up for your rights, he says, then you are facing a dispute and having to yield. Can we allow it? Bayrou asks. President Trump has made his views on the EU clear.
The EU was set up in order to take advantage of the United States.
In France, independent winemakers represent 60% of the country's wine production.
Bordeaux here, a whole row.
In New York, Mario Dutter's wine shop is full of French products.
I would say about 70% at least of our product are imported goods.
He believes for the US president this is a game.
They playing poker.
But for Éric Lombard, French economy minister, he says, I want this tariff war to end as quickly as possible. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
There were some terrifying moments for passengers on board an American Airlines plane from Colorado Springs to Dallas. The Boeing 737 was diverted to Denver after some trouble with its engine, which caught fire after the plane landed. Passengers were evacuated onto the tarmac as smoke billowed into the air. Ingrid Hibbets was among them.
As soon as we land, everybody's standing up and screaming. I look out the window and there's flames out the window, and then the plastic of the window was melting and bubbling, and people were screaming. We were pushed out onto the wing, and there wasn't a slide or anything where I was.
172 passengers and 6 crew were on board. No one was seriously hurt, though 12 were taken to hospital for minor injuries. The FAA is investigating. A spike in measles in Ontario has public health officials urging people to get vaccinated. Over the past 2 weeks, the number of cases in this country has soared. Jennifer Yoon has more.
She's just a little peanut.
Amid the bliss of the first weeks of motherhood, new mom Mariah Culp is livid. The Niagara region where she lives has 9 confirmed cases of measles, and her baby, just weeks old, is too young to be vaccinated against the super contagious disease.
I rationalized to myself, it's happening somewhere else. It won't happen around here. It won't happen to me. And then when I saw that news, I was horrified.
Across Ontario, there's an alarming jump in measles. Almost 280 confirmed cases in the province so far this year. That's almost double the total number of measles cases last year across Canada. 31 people have been hospitalized in Ontario. Most of them are unvaccinated children. Dr. Mehdi Alouche, the chief public health officer in Windsor-Essex County, one of the communities being hit, is expecting more cases.
All of our cases have been unvaccinated. So this is what they have in common.
Alouche says it's been hard to convince those hesitant to get the vaccine, leaving new moms like Culp frustrated.
So I've tried not to judge, but I feel very angry that it's completely preventable. It was almost eradicated. They're putting other vulnerable people in the risk of danger.
There is no cure for measles. The vaccine is the only protection. Public health authorities emphasize it's safe, it's been used for decades, and effective at stopping the spread and saving lives. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
For 3 decades, Sonia Sywink's death has remained a mystery. She's one of hundreds of missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada whose cases remain unsolved. Now CBC's The Fifth Estate reveals how a questionable coroner's report and a decades-old police investigation may have contributed to her murder going unsolved for so long, and that left her sister to try and solve the case. Connie Walker reports.
You know, she was small, very petite. She wasn't really tough. She wasn't really made tough.
In 1994, the body of Sonia Sywink was found in a small park 40 kilometers outside of London, Ontario. Her unsolved murder haunts her sister, Maggie Sywink.
I do not believe my sister would go to a place like that willingly. I believe she was killed somewhere else and brought there.
Sonia's homicide is being investigated by the Ontario Provincial Police. Maggie says the OPP told her they didn't have any new leads. That's when she decided to go out and get her own.
She was murdered. She was murdered, yeah. And her body was found. The last place she was seen was across the street there.
The Fifth Estate has obtained the original 1994 autopsy. It noted over 20 contusions and abrasions on the front and back of Sonia's body. The coroner's report found trauma associated with cocaine intake could have caused Sonia's death, but whether it was accidental or homicide could not be determined. That ruling was made a year after Sonia's death, around the same time that the original OPP investigation seemed to wind down.
It makes you drop to your knees because it's totally shocking.
But 22 years later, in 2016, the chief pathologist of Ontario, Michael Polanin, reviewed Sonia's case. He found that her injuries were most likely due to assault and determined that the manner of death was homicide. The OPP declined our interview request but said Sonia's case is active and ongoing. Connie Walker, CBC News, Toronto.
And the Fifth Estate's investigation, A Sister's Promise, airs tonight at 9 p.m. on CBC Television and GEM or on YouTube, starting this afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern. Well, that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Friday morning show on Information Radio on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Wherever you're joining us, thanks for being here. Friday morning. Going to be a little milder in Winnipeg today. Abby's in with our forecast in just a moment, but elsewhere we do have some snowfall warnings in the province. This hour on the show, high school entrepreneurs are going to face off this weekend to prove that they have the right stuff to sell their products in the quote-unquote real world. We're going to find out if their weeks of business mentorship have paid off and if they'll persuade you to support their products. So stay tuned. We'll tell you all about what we're referring to here. In addition, the swearing in of Mark Carney as Canada's new Prime Minister and his cabinet, as we've been hearing, happens later this morning. CBC will have a special, starts at 10 o'clock Manitoba time. We're going to discuss, though, who's in, who's out, and what a smaller cabinet might mean for our Prairie province. Also, we'll have more on that marketplace investigation. You may have just heard about it. Sex for rent listings. So a very serious investigation. Ashley Tomlinson will join us live before 7 o'clock. Right now, let's go to Lauren Donnelly, speaking of news, to find out what's making headlines at 6:11 a.m. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, Marcy. Homeowners in at least 4 of Winnipeg's 6 English school divisions will be paying more in property taxes. The Louis Riel, St. James Assiniboia, Seven Oaks, and Winnipeg school divisions have passed their budgets for the upcoming school year. The hike amount differs from division to division. I'll have more details on that. And a devastating fire hasn't derailed ambitious plans for the former Sutherland Hotel. The Main Street landmark was gutted by flames in January, just a few days after it was sold to a BC nonprofit headed by Keith Wiebe-Gordon. We'll hear more about his vision for the site. That's all coming up in your next local newscast at 6:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Lauren.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's get into this mixed bag of a forecast as we look to get above zero in Winnipeg. Abby Adeyemi, what's up?
Good morning. We have snowfall warning in effect for, parts of central Manitoba into northern Manitoba today. Now, this will be impacting folks in the Parr, Flin Flon, Thompson, and even Churchill, all the way to Churchill. We're seeing heavy snow that has already started in the Parr and Flin Flon. This would spread northwest. It should be reaching Churchill heaviest by tomorrow morning. We're talking about 15 to 20 centimeters of snow before this would ease on Sunday. Now, during this period, you should be careful. Roads and highways will become slippery because there are going to be some freezing rain also coming with that. So be prepared for that. My thoughts are with you. Looking at conditions in Winnipeg right now, it is partly cloudy conditions we're seeing. Expect a mix of sun and clouds this morning. Then it turns cloudy by the noon period. We should see some showers moving in, some light breeze from the northwest. This would change it's going to be switching directions in the afternoon, and then we'll see highs around -5. Now, this rain showers will continue and will change to freezing rain this evening, then turn to light snow and blowing snow near midnight, which will get windy. So, Marcy, getting into the weekend, it's going to be sun, then cloud, then snow, then freezing rain, and then windy conditions. So, just be prepared for a mix of sun, rain, clouds, and conditions will vary from south to north.
Here's just proof that Abby's like the nicest guy in the world and that it's not like he's not putting it on, right? So, May McKillop, did you catch what he just said? He's doing the whole north and talking about what's coming, and then he says, "My thoughts are with you." Like, how nice is that?
I'm just saying.
It's true. His thoughts are with you as you're going to get through that challenging time. I know. He's the nicest guy.
It's all good news with Abby.
Okay, so we have to talk about traffic. I think it's probably pretty quiet right now.
Pretty quiet right now. I think most people may be sleeping before their morning commute, but anyone out there, I would love to hear what's going on throughout the show today. You can call us and let us know. I'm keeping an eye on the east side of the province right now, particularly anything north of Highway number 1 through the Parkland region. There's some snow-covered conditions and likely some blowing snow conditions as well. Anything going on the commute this morning, give me a call and I will pass that message along. The number to call is 204-788-3093.
as I mentioned, some Manitoba high school students are getting ready to face off and learn what it takes to run a business. But they're not just any ordinary students. They're students who are part of the Junior Achievement Manitoba Company Program. It's a mentorship that teaches young entrepreneurs business skills, as I said, that they can take on into the real world. So this weekend, they're putting those skills to the test. The Junior Achievement Annual Trade Fair is happening Saturday at St. Vital Mall. Greg Leipzig is president and CEO of Junior Achievement Manitoba and up early via Zoom joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Mercy.
And Jackson Forster is a rural high school student in the program, and they're also with us via Zoom. Good morning to you, Jackson.
Good morning.
So, Greg, tell us a bit about how the program works and what's going to be going on this weekend.
Well, thanks for having us. So the way that our program works is this is an after-school program. So a lot of what JA does is in-school financial literacy and entrepreneurship teaching. But what we're doing with these students is these kids are signing up and they're joining us once a week for almost 22 weeks throughout the winter and into the early spring. And they will be put into teams. And then once they're in teams, they're going to form an actual business. So they're going to come up with a product idea. They're going to have a name for their company. They're going to begin to sell shares in that company. They're going to write a business plan. They're going to elect vice presidents in various areas of marketing and website development, HR, finance. And then eventually, once they've manufactured that product, they're going to hit the streets and start selling it. And so we're really excited because this Saturday, as you mentioned, we'll be at St. Vital. 2 weeks from this Saturday, we'll be at Kildonan Place. So these are the two big opportunities for our students to get in front of the public and put all of their hard work to the test and try and sell as many of their products as they can.
Very cool. How many students are in the program?
This is our biggest number of students we've had in almost 3 decades. We have 211 students spread across 11 teams, and most of the kids are from Winnipeg, but we've got some from Oak Bank and the Morden Winkler area.
Very cool.
It's going to be a busy day. Yeah.
Let's bring Jackson in here. So, Jackson, where are you from? I mentioned rural Manitoba.
Yeah, I'm from Morden, so about an hour south of Winnipeg.
Yeah, know it well. We're doing a live show there actually on Tuesday morning. So tell me a little bit about why you want to be part of this program and what appeals to you about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so I've just always kind of enjoyed the world of business. This is my 4th year in the program, so I joined it in 9th grade. And I mean, for me, what kind of proved the program was the program itself in a way. I found that something I really appreciated about it is that when you're doing it, like it's all hands-on stuff and it's all decisions that you make on your own. And I know, like, I took a business class in high school and I loved it. And that's what prompted me to join it when I was in 9th grade. But I would just say for anybody that's like thinking about doing it, that kind of enjoys it, that would be my thing, is that pushed me to do it again, was that like after doing it for the first year, I just really enjoyed it, and that's kind of
kept you coming back for more. So are you ready? I know it's only 6:18 a.m. on a Friday morning, but obviously you've got maybe more than one product, but can you choose a product and give us a 30-second pitch here about a product that you've had in the works or have made, and why we should buy it?
Yeah, sure, I'd love to. So this year, my company is called Bloom and Bond. And what we do is we sell like small gardening kits for inside your home. And so what it is it comes with a pot, the soil, and the seed you need to grow your plant. And then it also comes with an instruction manual. So it gives people who might not be exactly green thumbs or maybe expert gardeners the best opportunity they have to have success with our plant.
I love that. And you did it in 22 seconds. I was looking at the clock. So Greg, what are some of the products that students are selling? I love, Jackson's idea about the sort of the care. I could use a few of these care kits for my plants at home, frankly. But what are some of the other ideas that students have come up with?
There's some really interesting ones. There's a company that's producing puzzles. There's another one that is doing a eco-friendly hydration option, which I think is a fancy way of talking about water bottles. There's a company that's creating tote bags. We've got one that's doing coasters and candles, a company that's doing posters and maps. Another one's doing scented sachets. So it's sort of all over the map as far as different types of products.
So Jackson, are you involved this weekend, or have you been involved in the past in these sort of fairs? What's it like when you're sort of right in front of the public trying to sell your stuff?
Yeah, I've been involved every year with the trade fairs. I'll be there again this year, tomorrow, I guess. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun really getting to like interact with people and show them something that you're so passionate about, something that you've worked really hard on for the entire winter. And not just you, but like your friends around you, because you become friends with the people that are in your team, even if you didn't know them before the program. And you really kind of just want success for not only yourselves, but kind of just like for everybody there and just for everybody to have a good time. And yeah, that's kind of.
What's the most challenging part of the experience? Because obviously it would be so rewarding to take something, develop it, and then, take it through. But what's the hardest? What are some of the hardest things about it that people might not understand? Jackson?
Yeah, I think the hardest parts are, I want to say like the management of just everything you have to get done. 22 weeks sounds like a long time, but it's really not as long once you've started to, like after you've done your first couple meetings, you have winter break in the middle, you have exams, you have school, you have life, and also trying to make sure that you get your work done for your team and just kind of trying to organize everything. You have to source your products, you have to sort, or not your products, but you have to source your materials, you have to put your product together, you have to prototype it, all that kind of stuff, marketing before you go to Winnipeg. So there is a lot to do. And I would say that's probably the most challenging thing is just trying to get everything done and get everything done well.
And then all of a sudden another country says they're going to have 25% tariffs on your homemade plant kits. No, they're not. They're not. Canadian made, Canadian grown. Thank you both for being with us. Enjoy this weekend, Jackson. And what should people know, Greg, about if they're going to attend and support the students, about just to remind us of what's happening tomorrow?
Yeah, it's from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at St. Vital. They'll be at Center Court. They will be easy to identify. Bring a little bit of money or your credit card. Most of the kids have the Apple Square. And just have lots of fun and chat with the kids and not just do some shopping, but talk to them about their experience and ask them about it. And they'll love to talk about it.
Well, it was my pleasure to have both of you here via Zoom on our program on CBC this morning. Good luck with your sales, Jackson, and thank you very much, Greg. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Percy.
Thanks.
Greg Leipzig, President and CEO of Junior Achievement Manitoba. Jackson Forrester, a high school student participating in the trade fair this weekend, so tomorrow. So you can check it all out in action, as Greg mentioned, at St. Vital Mall and then later at KP. Time right now is 6:23 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app and on YouTube. So let's get back to serious politics here and serious issues that are happening in this country. Today we're going to have a special because we are going to have our next Prime Minister sworn in. So CBC will carry that at 10 o'clock this morning, the swearing in of former central banker Mark Carney as he becomes Canada's new Prime Minister. And we will also find out about his cabinet. The swearing in ceremony is, of course, happening in Ottawa. And to talk more about what we might see, but also about the challenges that Carney and his government will face, Thomas Galipeau joins us now via Zoom. He's a PhD candidate in political science at the University of Toronto. Good morning.
Good morning.
So can you walk us through exactly what we'll see at the swearing-in process and whether or not they'll be speaking after we sort of see this happen?
Right. So first of all, rumor have it that the cabinet will be much smaller than the current one, down from 37 to about 20. So some cabinet minister will have to, quote unquote, resign, and then some will be appointed by the Governor General, Mary Simmons, on the advice of Prime Minister Carney at 11, like you said. So after that, each selected cabinet member will receive a letter and a briefing document, a pretty FT1 in general, outlining the priorities of Prime Minister Carney for the coming session.
So we heard from Philippe Champagne, and then also from Melanie Joly. They kind of slipped, saying they expect to be in cabinet still, although people may not be surprised. We've heard quite a lot of analysis already on World Report this morning, Thomas, and we also heard Chrystia Freeland could be in this cabinet. Do you know anything about Terry Duguid? He's a minister from Manitoba, of course, who's the Minister of Sport. I suspect if we're going from 30 to 15, his ministry could be at risk.
So that's right. Everything is still on the table, but I see two ways to think about this. The first way is to think about what is important right now and what is working for Mr. Carney. What is working right now is focusing on the important issues such as foreign relationship. So people in charge of this broad category will not change, I think. So I'm thinking of people like François-Philippe Champagne, Dominique Leblanc, Mélanie Joly will all probably remain. For the second way of thinking about this is things that are unpopular in the population. So the carbon tax, immigration, that's two things that people were worried about and were kind of unpopular. So people like Stephen Guilbeault, rumor have it that he's going to have a new assignment or be out of the cabinet. We'll see at 11. But outside of those two ways of thinking about cabinet formation, it's still unclear.
What, in your view, is a priority task for Carney as soon as he's sworn in ahead of an election?
Right. So I see two main priorities. First, foreign relationship with the U.S. It's the issue that brings the most anxiety with the Canadian citizen right now. So by working that relationship, but also examining new market possibilities. So, for example, Carney's first official visit was announced. It's going to be in Europe, which is slightly unusual. It's usually down south to the U.S. And earlier this week, he held a press conference in Hamilton with Karina Gould about the tariff on steel. So that's again focusing on that issue. But the second thing is obviously preparation for an election that should come very, very soon. So that means many things like building the program, coining the message, finding people to run. Because if we're thinking not very long ago, the Liberal Party was trailing heavily in the polls. So a lot of people have signaled that they would not run again, that they would prefer to do something else. But with the changing winds, they might come back and change their mind. And overall, it's in his interest to make that election happen sooner than later because he's still surfing on that U.S.-Canada issue and this optimism.
But we heard on World Report that likely not this weekend, right? Because at first we were thinking maybe he was going to actually, step forward and say we're going to have an election, and as soon as this weekend he would make that announcement. When do you think the election call might come?
If I had a crystal ball, I would tell you timing an election for a politician is like timing the market. It's challenging, but it's sometimes doable when you have good fortune. But that good fortune can disappear in an instant. We look at the surge in the poll, for example, it was pretty unexpected. For the moment, Mark Carney seems to have that good fortune on the side. His candidacy continues to promote enthusiasm among his partisans. So when looking at the surge in the poll, we really understand why. So if he continues to dominate the current ballot question, which is the U.S.-Canada relationship, election should be called very soon. I heard things about mid-April, early May. For election day, but that remains to be seen. I'm not in his head, sadly.
Of course, yeah. So just as a last question to you, Thomas, I understand you're scratching your own head about the selection of former Liberal Cabinet Minister Marco Mendicino as his Chief of Staff. Why is that?
I'm really sorry to have a disappointing answer on that. I really don't know. It's kind of unclear to me. On one side, he's an experienced cabinet person, so he has the skill that command respect, and I heard he was instrumental in the current transition. But at the same time, he's kind of a polarizing figure. His stance on Gaza, for example, and also the reason why he was sidelined in the first place, the burnout present transfer. So it's really unclear to me. I really don't know.
Thank you very much. We will see what happens at 10 o'clock. Appreciate having you on.
Thank you.
That's Thomas Galipeau, a PhD candidate and lecturer in political science at the University of Toronto. So Mark Carney will be sworn in as Canada's next Prime Minister. The special will be on at 10 here on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us this morning. We're getting into news time with Lauren Donnelly this morning in just a moment for your 6:30 news. Just want to mention that then coming up, we will have business news here on CBC. Crystal Ramlicam will join us as she does every morning. Today, we'll find out how the markets are wrapping the week of turmoil, trade, and tariffs. Also, health groups are urging governments to ensure patients do not get caught in the trade war. And we'll find out what that perspective is about and how we could get caught in the trade war. So stay tuned. That's after your CBC Winnipeg news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Lauren Donnelly in Winnipeg at 6:30. It's -1 and partly cloudy at the Winnipeg airport. A mix of sun and cloud, becoming cloudy near noon with showers, a high of +5. A new Brandon doctor says the process to get to Canada needs to be streamlined. Mohammed Khan says the current permitting process doesn't reflect the urgent need for doctors in communities. Khan, who moved from the UK, says it was a roller coaster getting to Brandon at the start of the year. He wishes the visa process was smoother because the community desperately needs doctors. He's already seeing up to 30 patients a day.
It was a surprise for me first day when I started my clinic. People had no family doctor for 6 years, and they've been going for a same-day walk-in, waiting to see a doctor for 3 hours.
Doctors Manitoba says the province needs 375 to 400 more physicians. In Westman, Prairie Mountain Health says they need to recruit around 40 to 45 doctors to fill gaps. The vacant Main Street lot where the Sutherland Hotel once stood won't stay vacant for long. That's according to the head of a nonprofit group that bought the 142-year-old landmark just days before it was gutted by fire earlier this year. Keith Wiebe-Gordon says he never considered backing out of the deal, but now he's looking at a construction project instead of a restoration.
This is an opportunity to let our imagination go free a little bit and let it self-organize from the bottom up. Let the community speak, let government, business, other groups speak, let the Indigenous voice be heard, and see what it will develop to.
Wiebe-Gordon says he hopes to begin construction as soon as possible on a project that will include vibrant businesses on the ground floor and up to 100 affordable rental units. 4 school divisions in Winnipeg are raising their property taxes, some of them for the second year in a row. The Louis Riel, St. James Assiniboia, Seven Oaks, and the Winnipeg school divisions have passed their budgets for the upcoming school year. To raise funds for growing operation expenses, the school divisions are hiking the tax levied to homeowners. This is the second year in a row Manitoba's NDP government has allowed school divisions to hike taxes, a move criticized by the opposition. Lauren Stone is the PC's finance critic.
It's clear that this NDP government is not doing their job to keep property taxes low for Manitobans. Every single day over the past few weeks, we have heard some kind of increase being proposed by school divisions across the province.
Manitoba's finance minister says a new property tax credit worth $1,500 will help lower those school taxes. As Canada's next Prime Minister gets sworn in, one country watching closely is India, where allegations of government agents orchestrated the killing of a Canadian have damaged diplomatic relations. Our South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji has more from Mumbai.
There are opportunities to rebuild the relationships with India.
Those words from Mark Carney in his campaign to become Liberal leader, a welcome balm to the strained diplomatic ties between Canada and India. Carney is set to be sworn in as Prime Minister, and Indian officials have been preparing for weeks, a strategy centered around one key fact.
He is not Trudeau.
Ajay Bisaria served as a High Commissioner of India to Canada. He says the ill will towards outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is strong.
The killing of a Canadian citizen.
After he stood up in Parliament and accused Indian government agents of being involved in the killing of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar on Canadian soil. Last fall, the tiff escalated when both countries expelled the other's diplomats. Bisaria says that has come up often in recent meetings of former diplomats and other officials over how to get the relationship back on track. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
And finally,
the best things in life are free, but you can keep them for the birds and bees. Now give me
John Lennon is getting what he wanted. kind of. He's getting his face on money on a specially minted British coin collection. It is to mark the year Lennon would have turned 85. The Royal Mint says the coin will go on sale on Monday and features a portrait of Lennon that is based on a famous image taken in 1974. It depicts a side profile of Lennon taken on the roof of his penthouse in New York. Lennon fans and coin collectors will be able to buy the coins from the Royal Mint's website as of Monday. And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg.
All right. Thanks a lot, Lauren.
You're welcome, Marcy.
Let's see. Get into the forecast now. It's likely not to be what you want, especially if you're in the north. Abby, what's up?
Yeah, the weather is shaping to be snowy in the northern part of the province. Then we're looking at mixed conditions in the south. Snowfall warnings in effect for central into northern Manitoba with heavy snow expected in places. It's already started in Flin Flon, so you should be careful out there. And this spreads into Thompson and Churchill, so travel will be difficult in these areas this morning. Caution is advised. Now, for the other regions, for Winnipeg and the Red River Valley region, it is temperatures hovering between 0 and 1 at this time. Partly cloudy skies we're seeing today. We'll start with a mix of sun and clouds. Then cloud cover over the noon period. We will see showers move in. The high will be around 5 degrees. Tonight, the showers return into freezing rain. Then we'll see some light snow that will be blowing around the midnight period. Similar conditions we're looking at in the Pembina Valley region from Morden, Maurice, Winkler, all the way down to Altona. Temperatures around 0 and 1 at this time. Clear skies you do have there. Expect a mix of sun and clouds. Showers will develop around noon. We also have that rain changing to freezing rain later in the day, added with some light snow that will be blowing later in the evening. Your highs will be around 4 degrees. Now heading west to Brandon, -7. We're looking at mostly cloudy conditions. Expect cloudy skies today with light snow starting around your lunch break, and possibly it's going to come with some freezing rain. Also, the high will be around 0. In the Parkland region, -12. Clear skies in Dauphin. Cloudy conditions will develop through the day. We do have light snow starting similar to Brandon during the lunch break. High will be around -5. Tonight, the light snow and local blowing snow will continue into tomorrow morning before clearing up. Now, for the Interlake region, Gimli sitting at -8 with some cloudy skies. Expect this to stay with you this morning. Then some snow will start. That should taper off in the afternoon, leaving behind a slim chance of freezing rain. Highs will be around -3. Now, for our friends in the Pa and Flin Flon surrounding areas, we're already seeing that blowing snow in that area, so it's really impacting the people around there. Temperatures around -14 at this time. We have that snowfall warning in effect now. The heavy snow is expected to stay with you for most of this morning. It will continue, and it's going to be spreading northeast towards Churchill. It should be the heaviest part of the snow should be touching Churchill by tomorrow morning. We're looking at the total accumulation once the system comes through about 15 to 25 centimeters. Now for Thompson, -17, mostly cloudy. Snow is also moving your way. We're looking at 5 to 10 centimeters. The winds will be light, but it gets breezy as you get into the afternoon. That snow continues. Another 10 centimeters are added to that, even into tomorrow morning. Further north in Churchill, clear conditions you're seeing now, but the snow is coming. We're tracking that snow coming your way out as well. It's going to be coming in later today. Some windy conditions, and it's going to get cold with wind chill factored in. This snow is going to continue tonight, even into tomorrow. The wind chill actually feels like -36 this morning. So, Marcy, it's just snow in the north, a mixed condition in the south.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Any issues in the morning commute yet, Mae?
Just noting two areas closed for construction downtown here. So northbound Osborne closed for construction at St. Mary's. So detours through St. Mary's. As well, northbound Memorial is closed from York to Portage today. So expect delays around the ledge and plan for a detour if possible. Also, just looking at that snowfall warning, it's snowing in the PA, so we're going to see some snowfalling conditions as well in the Parkland region, snow this afternoon. So prepare for some snowfalls in your commute later today. Anything else that's getting in the way, give me a call and I will pass that message along to your fellow commuters. The number to call is 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Mae. Let's get into business news now. Hi, Christely Ramlakan. How are you?
I'm good, Marcy. Good morning.
Usually we end with markets, but I'm wondering first, how are the markets wrapping up this week of trade and tariff? And then maybe we should just get the numbers out of the way before we move to other stories.
Yeah, sure. So Canadian and U.S. markets continued their sell-off yesterday. The S&P 500 saw its first correction since 2023. And a correction is when an index falls more than 10% below its record. The S&P TSX index closed down 220 points due to lower tech and financial stocks. But base metals helped offset some of those losses. And in response to President Donald Trump's tariff streak, markets have been volatile, not just daily, but hour by hour. But the broader trajectory has been downward. Now, the latest is that Trump has threatened 200% tariffs on champagne and other European wines unless the European Union rolls back a tariff on U.S. whiskey. But that whiskey tariff was in response to Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum. So, tariffs piling on top of tariffs. And adding to the uncertainty are geopolitical concerns, with discussions over a Russia-Ukraine ceasefire ongoing. And Marcy, yesterday Trump doubled down on his tariff plans, even as stocks sank. So he says he's not going to bend at all. And Trump specifically said he would not change his mind about enacting reciprocal tariffs on other countries that put up trade barriers to U.S. goods. So obviously that is including Canada right now. And the White House has said reciprocal tariffs are set to take effect April 2nd. And if you want to know how the markets are doing now, in Europe, markets are opening higher. Germany, the UK, and France are all up. And in Asia, markets are mostly up. Japan, Shanghai, and Hong Kong are all up right now.
Let's talk about health groups, because I understand right now, to look at another story, they're urging governments to ensure that patients don't get caught in the trade war. How so?
Yeah, so health associations want medical supplies and devices to be shielded from counter tariffs. So the Ontario Hospital Association says tariffs will likely bring significant risks to the entire healthcare system, including the possible disruption of access to vital equipment and supplies. So Health Pro Canada purchases supplies and equipment for more than 2,000 healthcare facilities across the country, and it says it stands with the government that U.S. tariffs cannot go unanswered, but it is looking for an exemption of healthcare products from any retaliatory tariffs. So it says the manufacturing process for many healthcare supplies is actually similar to the automotive industry, where raw materials and components often go back and forth across the U.S. border several times before the final production. Now, it's not yet clear what products could be affected by future counter tariffs, but medical supplies and devices and diagnostic imaging equipment, such as MRI and CT scanners, often come from U.S. manufacturers, and counter tariffs on things like food, mattresses, and other non-medical goods could also affect hospitals.
Finally, turning to the business of fashion, so completely different, a well-known figure stepping down from a popular fashion house.
Yes, so Donatella Versace is stepping down as Chief Creative Officer of the Versace brand, ending a more than quarter-century run as the creative mind behind her family's high-end fashion house. So the company says Donatella will become the Chief Brand Ambassador in April, a role that will support the brand's charitable projects. So she will be succeeded by Dario Vitale, who is the former design and image director at Miu Miu. Now, Capri Holdings acquired Versace for about $2 billion back in 2018. It also owns Michael Kors and Jimmy Choo. And across the board, luxury brands are trying to reset their operations as demand for their high-priced items has wavered. So demand in China has also cooled due to a sluggish economy there. And tariffs may suppress purchases even more. So personnel changes at luxury brands often signal the need for designers to stoke demand with new or innovative products that customers feel actually justify their price tags. And Gucci also got a new creative director last month, joining a string of other brands to replace their creative heads lately.
I understand you are off next week, so enjoy it, and we will talk to you the week after.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Marcy.
That is Christely Ramla-Cam with Business News. It is partly cloudy, 1 degree in Winnipeg as we head for a high of 5 degrees, sun and cloud, and we could see a few showers near noon today in Winnipeg. 6:44, as I mentioned, is the time right now. And up next, a little more on a story we heard in the news yesterday. Rainbow Stage has chosen the cast for their production of Frozen.
Do you want to build a snowman? Come on, let's go and play. I never see you anymore. Come out the door. It's like you've gone away. We used to be best
More than
buddies.
300 kids sang this song as part of their audition for the role of young Anna and Elsa. 5 young actors were selected. Now, earlier this week, the cast came together for the very first time. CBC's Felicia Adams visited Rainbow Stage to meet them. So let's hear a little more. The first voice you're going to hear belongs to 10-year-old Layla North, who will be playing young Elsa in the show.
It's really exciting. I honestly didn't think I'd get the role because there were so many amazing people there. It just feels awesome. I'm really excited.
How long did you practice for it?
Well, I'm quite a fast learner when it comes to singing and acting. So I memorized the entire monologue in 30 minutes. But I practiced for about a week and a half, and then it came to auditions, and yeah.
And what is it that you like about Frozen? What made you say, I want to audition for this?
Well, I just thought it's a really fun concept, and I just really like it. I've been singing Frozen songs since I was 2 years old, so yeah.
Is there a favorite song of yours that you like?
I really like Let It Go and Do You Want to Build a Snowman? They're the main songs that I've been listening to my entire life. They're really awesome. I like those songs.
And are you nervous or are you excited that you're going to be performing in front of, I think, over 2,000 people, right?
Yeah, I'm nervous, definitely, but also very excited because, I also can't wait for summer because that's when I get to do it.
I'm Emmeline Arnold. I'm 9 years old, and I'm playing the role of young Anna. It feels it was so surprising, and it's just I couldn't believe it. It was just so cool. I've been dreaming of this my whole life.
Oh, okay. Are you a fan of Frozen?
Oh, I've been a fan of Frozen since I was a baby. And before I was 2, I was singing and dancing and playing the songs of Frozen, and especially Anna and Elsa.
Do you have a favorite song?
Probably Let It Go.
And what about Frozen did you like so much?
Well, I love that Elsa has magical powers, and it's just Anna's a hero. She saved Elsa, and I get to be Anna, so I get to be a hero. My name is Carrie Castillo. I'm 10 years old, and I play the role of young Anna 1.
Okay, and how long did it take you to practice for the audition?
I was practicing a really long time, so probably I only had 2 weeks.
How are you feeling?
I feel really happy about it, especially to be chosen through 300 people. Only 2 people got chosen, and I'm one of them. It's just really exciting, especially because I was the one who found the email because my mom's computer was open. I checked her inbox, and then I saw this email, and it said Frozen offer Carrie Castillo, and then we were just calling my dad. We were literally screaming at the top of our lungs. And it was so funny because he thought we were literally, there was something bad that happened, and then we just showed him the email. It was really funny.
Was it a no-brainer that you wanted to play this part?
Yes. It was definitely a no-brainer. I just wanted to be Anna.
And why? Why do you want to be Anna?
Because Anna's just so bubbly, and I really love her, and she can just make her sister feel better. And since I have a little sister, I really know how Anna can be bubbly to her older sister too.
Is that the reason why you like Frozen? The sisterly bond there?
I really like Elsa's magical powers because I wish I could just make a snowman come to life. And I also love Anna's bravery. She could climb that whole mountain, even though she has the help of Kristoff and Sven. But she could climb that whole mountain by just to talk to her sister. And then Olaf is super funny. He always tries to make everything positive and always finds a way to make me laugh.
How do you feel after meeting the rest of your castmates?
I feel really comfortable because my castmates are really nice. And one of them are my friends, Anna A, which is Emmeline, is my friend. So yeah, I'm really comfortable here.
And are you nervous? Are you just excited?
I'm kind of nervous because 2,200 people? That's a lot.
So cute, right? Carrie Castillo, Emmeline Arnold, and Layla North. They're among the actors selected to play young Anna and Elsa at Rainbow Stage's production of Frozen. It's going to be packed this summer. You can catch the musical at Rainbow Stage. It starts August 7th and it runs to the 24th, so later in the year.
The United States has been ripped off.
The stories that matter.
Canada will be responding
As they happen.
We must put Canada first.
At home and around the world.
We don't need the products that they have.
And what they mean to you. For news you can trust.
We're coming to you live.
Stay with CBC News.
Well, speaking of news, let's get more details on a marketplace investigation from CBC that you may have heard at 6 o'clock on World Report. With a warning, this contains sexually explicit content. There is a troubling rental trend that's hiding in plain sight. Sex for rent listings that are not hard to find online. Experts say these arrangements are illegal. They exploit young, vulnerable women. Marketplace went undercover to respond to more than a dozen ads to document this disturbing process and to find out how widespread it is, who's being affected, and of course the potential consequences. So host Asha Tomlinson joins us now live to talk about this. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So can you explain what this sex for rent arrangement's all about?
Right. No doubt. Right. We have been in this tight housing and rental market for some time. And when you think about young people in college and university, if they're not on campus living in a dorm, limited finances, right, it can be hard to find an affordable place to live. What we are seeing online is this trend where landlords are posting ads on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. They are targeting female students and they're offering shelter for sex. Not only are these types of arrangements unethical, they're also illegal. We spoke with Janine Benedette. She's a law professor and lawyer in BC. She's done quite a bit of research on sexual violence against women. She is aware of this trend, and this is what she had to say. Would you call this a predatory practice?
Absolutely, it's a predatory practice. Anytime somebody obtains or tries to obtain a sexual service in exchange for something of value, they're violating the criminal code. And it doesn't matter where you do that. It could be straight up money that you're offering, but it could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be accommodation.
It is important to note the woman who may answer this kind of ad or engage in it is protected by law, so they have immunity from prosecution, but it is absolutely illegal for the person who is offering, suggesting, soliciting this type of arrangement. The stakes are high due to this criminal aspect, and that's why we started researching and looking into indecent rental ads online.
What did you find?
Lots. You don't have to look far, okay? And we compiled 20 ads that fit our test criteria, which fell into two categories. The first category, overt ads, are clear, cut, pretty explicit. You'll see things like daddy can pay rent or looking for a friends with benefits situation. That's a really popular one. Or seeking a live-in girlfriend. But then there's the covert ads, and our experts argue that these can be more dangerous. They lure desperate people in because of the sparse details and the vague descriptions. You really have to call or email or even meet to get more information. One guy we started corresponding with, his ad said, warm bed available for a young petite female. One of our producers met with him on hidden camera, and that is when he laid out exactly what he wanted. What you're about to hear is explicit. Have a listen.
We fool around a little bit here and there, right? Sort of.
When you say
in the same bed, right?
There's only one bed?
Yes.
Okay.
If you're not into actually having sex, that's cool. We can do other things, right? I don't mind helping you out if you're kind of helping me out too, right? You know what I mean?
After our meetup, we reached out to him. We revealed we're journalists, and I asked him why he offers housing in this way. Again, that response that you heard there, I like to help people out. And then he hung up. As for the online platforms where we found these ads, experts say they're part of the problem too. Facebook's parent company, Meta, tells us this type of content violates their policies. They do encourage people to report it if they see it. As for Craigslist, no response.
Are there consequences for the men who are posting these ads?
Not at this moment, surprisingly. This is a crime that seems to be flying under the radar for police. In fact, Janine Benedict, who you just heard from, says there's been very little action and there needs to be a crackdown. That means arrests, charges, convictions. That could help mitigate this problem. And how that could happen, she says, it could be as simple as what we did. Assign an undercover officer to respond to these ads, meet the people behind them, and hold them to account. We contacted the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police for comment, put all of that to them, and they say nothing is more important than protecting victims of violent crime and exploitation. They do say if Canadians report these sex for rent ads, they will investigate.
Meantime, I guess if someone finds themselves, in this kind of an arrangement, what can they do? Like, what recourse might they have?
Yeah, it's a hard situation, Marcy, when you think about it. Once you're in it, there's a lot of factors at play. We're talking about power dynamic, for sure, manipulation, threats. Experts talk to us about international students being most at risk because there's a threat of deportation from a landlord, perhaps. There's no support oftentimes for them, and English may be a second language. It can feel like there's no help or support available, but every city and region has resources on tenant rights. So if you can, in a safe space, search for those resources online and get armed with your information. Make sure to save any email exchanges or text messages, any evidence between you and your landlord for future reference. That could assist a police investigation. Contact a women's shelter organization or even a legal aid clinic if you'd like to take action. But I think for many, just talking to someone can help. If you are a victim of sexual violence, you can always contact the Canadian Mental Health Association's crisis line. I'm going to give that number out. It's toll free, 1-833-456-4566. or text 45645. There's also the Kids Helpline, and they take callers of all ages, so that's another avenue for someone. But if you find yourself in any immediate danger or facing a very serious threat to your life or safety, you've got to call 911.
All right, Asha, thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
Obviously, Asha's talking about their investigation. There'll be more tonight if you want to watch more detail. She's the host of Marketplace, and so she was live in our Toronto studio today. But the full investigation is tonight. The Secret Cost of Housing. It's on at 8 o'clock on CBC Television and on GEM. Let's get to Lauren Donnelly, who's in our Manitoba News Centre today and has our headlines.
Good morning. A new Brandon doctor says the process to get to Canada needs to be streamlined. A clinic in Brandon has turned to foreign-trained doctors to meet the demand for care from a growing list of patients. Doctors Manitoba says the province needs 375 to 400 more physicians. And a Manitoba fishing guide says he's had to tow over 100 people off Lake Winnipeg since early January. He says a recent video posted to Facebook of a truck stuck in the middle of the lake on Monday is one of many incidents this fishing season. I'll have more on those stories coming up after World Report.
All right, thanks a lot, Lauren.
You're welcome.
In the next hour of the show, the pile of rubble that was once the Sutherland Hotel in Winnipeg on Main Street won't stay there for long. A BC-based nonprofit has big plans for the property. They're already in the works. In fact, the ink was barely dry in an agreement to buy the Sutherland and develop it 4 days before it burned to the ground, but they haven't pulled out. They still are going ahead with their plans. We'll hear from them in the next hour. In addition, in the next hour of the show, despite the snow on the ground, gardens will be blossoming soon. We'll get some ideas for a head start on the season, especially in southern Manitoba, because we see you in the north today. We know you've got this snowfall warning between 15 to 25 centimeters coming. So this is Flin Flon, where it's already begun. It's going to move through Thompson, Churchill later today with some heavy snow and into the weekend. Winnipeg is partly cloudy and 1 degree right now and will be a high of 5. We'll have sun and cloud to start, and then the cloud will win around noon, and we might even see some showers move in for later today. One more story I want to mention we have coming up on Information Radio here on CBC at 10 to 8. Surrounded on 3 sides by Canada, Americans living in the northwest angle are experiencing the realities of life under the U.S.-Canada trade war in a very unique way. We're going to hear from one of those residents. That's coming up in the next hour of our show. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us here behind the glass this morning. Kevin Ipatebo, May McKillop, and Abby Adeyemi. And we're all back after 7 o'clock with more local news and more local programming, so stay with us. Right now, though, it's time to dip into national and international news on World Report. It's 1 minute to 7.
On The Current.
I'm not happy with the European Union, I want to tell you, and we're going to win that.
I'm Mark Kelly. Canada and the European Union are both in the sights of the Trump administration when it comes to tariffs and security. The EU's top diplomat, Kaja Kallas, on her strategy and how the EU can work with Canada, coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. Outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will meet with the Governor-General this morning to submit his resignation. The new Liberal leader Mark Carney will take his place as Canada's next Prime Minister. A swearing-in ceremony will get underway at Rideau Hall later today. Carney expected to lead a smaller cabinet, focusing on handling the trade war with the U.S. And CBC News has learned that many ministers involved in those negotiations will be part of Carney's inner circle. Janice McGregor joins us from our Parliamentary Bureau in Ottawa with more. So, Janice, who's in and who's out?
John, Mark Carney's challenge today is to deliver change and continuity at the same time, because this is still a Liberal government that tomorrow has to focus on the same top priority it had yesterday, defending against Donald Trump's threats. The three major ministers out working on that file yesterday, Melanie Joly, who was leading on the diplomatic front, chairing talks with G7 foreign ministers, Dominic LeBlanc and François-Philippe Champagne, who've been out front on the tariff file, they all not just endorsed, but added their organizational muscle to Carney's leadership campaign, and they're going to continue to have big seats at the cabinet table. The latter two had a bit of a laugh about this after their meeting in Washington yesterday.
They understand that despite the fact that we may be in an electoral process in the coming weeks, that this is priority number one for Minister LeBlanc and I. You know, we will still be ministers during that period, or at least we'll see tomorrow. Certainly,
that was a mistake.
No, there's a good chance.
But what of Carney's three rivals in the leadership campaign? Chrystia Freeland, who was on CNN singing Carney's praises yesterday, is coming back into cabinet as Carney's transport minister. But Karina Gould, who was previously a major player for Trudeau, is not. There have, however, been conversations about some kind of a role for Frank Baylis, who doesn't currently have a seat. But this cabinet is going to be smaller.
So, Janice, a new Prime Minister, a new team. What do we know now about Carney's plan in the days ahead?
Well, he's going to meet reporters to take a few questions to set the tone after his ministry is sworn in, but then he's going to be off to meet with his new ministers to plot strategy. Carney isn't calling an election this weekend. He's planning a brief trip overseas first to meet with allies in the UK and France now that he's Prime Minister. But he has only days, really, to do a few things in government before everyone pivots into campaign mode, asking voters for a new mandate so they can keep governing beyond just a few weeks.
Janice McGregor in our Parliamentary Bureau. Janice, thank you.
You're welcome.
And CBC Radio will cover the swearing-in of Mark Carney and his new cabinet today as they form Canada's government at a time of economic uncertainty. Join Catherine Cullen and myself live at 11 a.m. Eastern on CBC Radio and on the CBC News app. Just click on Local. Overseas, France is leading the charge against Donald Trump's latest European tariff threat. The U.S. president is vowing to slap a 200% tariff on Europe's wines and other alcoholic drinks. Anna Cunningham has more.
Plus 200% sur
prochaine cible de Donald Trump.
De 200% les droits de douane.
200%. Everyone in France is talking about US President Donald Trump's latest tariff threat to the EU. If there's one thing that makes the French proud, it's a heritage of producing wine and champagne. Even the name champagne has protected status. It can only be used if it's produced in the Champagne region of France. Outside of that, it's sparkling wine. Europe sends close to $5 billion worth of wine each year to the US. French Prime Minister François Bayrou is in disbelief.
Qui
who isn't able to see that this is something that will cause a trade crisis, he says. If you don't stand up for your rights, he says, then you are facing a dispute and having to yield. Can we allow it? Beirut asks. President Trump has made his views on the EU clear.
The EU was set up in order to take advantage of the United States.
In France, independent winemakers represent 60% of the country's wine production.
Bordeaux here, a whole row.
In New York, Mario Dutta's wine shop is full of French products.
I would say about 70% at least of our product are imported goods.
He believes for the US president this is a gain.
They playing poker.
But for Éric Lombard, French economy minister, he says, I want this tariff war to end as quickly as possible. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
Some terrifying moments for passengers on board an American Airlines plane from Colorado Springs to Dallas. The Boeing 737 was diverted to Denver after some trouble with its engine, which caught fire after the plane landed. Passengers were evacuated onto the tarmac as smoke billowed into the air. Ingrid Hibbets was one of them.
As soon as we land, everybody's standing up and screaming. I look out the window and there's flames out the window. And then the plastic of the window was melting and bubbling and people were screaming. We were pushed out onto the wing. And there wasn't a slide or anything where I was.
172 passengers and 6 crew were on board. No one was seriously hurt, though 12 were taken to hospital for minor injuries. The FAA is investigating. A spike in measles in Ontario has public health officials urging people to get vaccinated. Over the past 2 weeks, the number of cases in this country has soared, and officials worry it's only going to get worse. Jennifer Yoon has more.
She's just a little peanut.
Amid the bliss of the first weeks of motherhood, new mom Mariah Culp is livid. The Niagara region where she lives has 9 confirmed cases of measles, and her baby, just weeks old, is too young to be vaccinated against the super contagious disease.
I rationalized to myself, it's happening somewhere else. It won't happen around here. It won't happen to me. And then when I saw that news, I was horrified.
Across Ontario, there's an alarming jump in measles. Almost 280 confirmed cases in the province so far this year. That's almost double the total number of measles cases last year across Canada. 31 people have been hospitalized in Ontario. Most of them are unvaccinated children. Dr. Mehdi Alouche, the chief public health officer in Windsor, Essex County, one of the communities being hit, is expecting more cases.
All of our cases have been unvaccinated. So this is what they have in common.
Alouche says it's been hard to convince those hesitant to get the vaccine, leaving new moms like Culp frustrated.
So I tried not to judge, but I feel very angry that it's completely preventable. It was almost eradicated. They're putting other vulnerable people in the risk of danger.
There is no cure for measles. The vaccine is the only protection. Public health authorities emphasize it's safe, it's been used for decades, and effective at stopping the spread and saving lives. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
A CBC Marketplace investigation now with a warning that it contains sexually explicit content. As Canada's housing crisis deepens, a troubling trend has emerged. Some landlords are offering accommodation to female students in exchange for sexual favors. This exploitative exercise is known as rent for sex. Asha Tomlinson brings us this investigation.
So I saw your listing and then I saw that I offered free rent.
We're undercover, meeting with a man who's posted an ad online.
I don't mind helping you out if you're kind of helping me out too, right?
He's offering a warm bed in Hamilton, Ontario for a petite female.
We fool around a little bit here and there, right? Sort of.
We found over a dozen listings on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist seeking a sex-for-rent arrangement. Experts say soliciting sexual favors in exchange for free or discounted rent is illegal. Many ads target young women in college and university.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Brampton Regional Councillor Rowena Santos has been sounding the alarm for months now. She says international students are most at risk.
The challenges are far more greater in terms of affordability, in terms of trying to find housing. Many of the students, English is a second language. Because of those circumstances, a lot of people like to prey on it.
What does the Hamilton man we met with have to say?
Hello?
We called him. My name is Asha Tomlinson. I'm a host with CBC Marketplace. Can you walk me through why you choose to offer housing in this way?
I like to help people out. But anyways, have a good day.
But Facebook's parent company Meta says this type of content violates its policies and encourages people to report it if they see it. No response from Craigslist. Asha Tomlinson, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. A reminder before we go, the swearing-in of the new Prime Minister and his cabinet will take place this morning at Rideau Hall in Ottawa, and we here at CBC News will have it covered for you. CBC News Network coverage starts at 10 a.m. Eastern. CBC Radio, myself and Catherine Cullen, the host of The House, will take to the airwaves from 11 until about 1 p.m. Eastern. Though we're going to wait for the Prime Minister to come out and make comments and be interviewed and scrummed by the media. So we're going to hold on until that point at least. So watch and listen for that across CBC, across all of its platforms. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good Friday morning, everyone. Little snow coming to northern Manitoba, and here in the south, we're going to be above zero in Winnipeg. Thanks so much for joining us on the Friday morning show on CBC. This is Information Radio. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, or maybe you're on the app or listening and watching on YouTube. This hour on the program, we're going to talk to someone from an isolated American community sandwiched between Manitoba and Ontario. It's the Northwest Angle. As tensions rise in the trade war between Canada and the U.S., we want to know what all of this feels like from his perspective. So stay tuned and we will talk to him just before 8. In addition, this hour on the program, tomorrow marks 2 months to the day that the Sutherland Hotel on Winnipeg's Main Street burned to the ground. However, it's still going to be developed, that property, and one of the proposals does include housing. We're going to talk to a BC developer who has actually bought the Sutherland. The ink dried on that agreement 4 days before it burned, but they're not pulling out. We're going to hear more about their plans. Let's first go to our news center this morning. Lauren Donnelly is in for Heather Wells. Good morning.
Good morning. 4 school divisions in Winnipeg are raising their property taxes, some of them for the second year in a row. The NDP government has allowed the school divisions to hike taxes, and that's a move criticized by the opposition. And a new Brandon doctor says the process to get to Canada needs to be streamlined. A clinic in Brandon has turned to foreign-trained doctors to meet the demand for care from a growing list of patients. Doctors Manitoba says the province needs about 400 more physicians. We'll have those stories and more coming up in your next local news at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Lauren.
You're welcome.
Abby Adiemi, what's going on with this snow coming?
Snowfall warning in effect for central and northern Manitoba. That's what we're tracking at this point. It's already impacting Flin Flon, Thompson, and it should be moving into Churchill as we get into the day. We see heavy snowfall already in the Par and Flin Flon. We're looking at once the system passes through, we're seeing about 15 to 20 centimeters before it eases on Sunday. However, let's talk about today in Winnipeg. It is 1 in the city, partly cloudy. This morning is going to start off with a mix of sun and clouds, but don't get too comfortable because the clouds will take over by the noon period, bring in some showers. We get a light breeze from the northwest, which will switch up its pace as we get into the afternoon. We warm up to 5 degrees, and then tonight those rain showers we'll see I call it, they're going to put on like a winter coat because it's going to switch from like rain to snow. Then we'll see freezing rain, even blowing snow near the midnight period where temperatures sliding down to -10. But for the other parts of the province, I'm just concerned about the situation in the northern parts with that snowfall coming their way.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are being spoiled in the south. We got to be mindful here, right?
Really are.
Yeah, right. That's May McKillop, who's in to talk about our commute.
Just a couple closures that I'm going to highlight here downtown in Winnipeg. The northbound Osborne is closed for construction at St. Mary's, so detours through St. Mary's as well. Northbound Memorial is closed from York to Portage, so expect delays in that area and plan for detours if possible as well. Plan for snowfall and some freezing rain, as Abby mentioned, on your commute later in the day. Anything else getting in the way of your commute or anything you want to let your fellow commuters know about, give me a call and I'll pass that message along. The number to call is 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, tomorrow is 2 months to the day that the Sutherland Hotel on Winnipeg's Main Street burned to the ground. And as it was on fire, the ink was barely dry on an agreement to buy it. Anhart Community Housing Society, they are based in BC, as I mentioned, signed this agreement just 4 days before the Sutherland was lost. But the disaster has not halted its plans to redevelop the property. Keith Wiebe-Gordon is co-founder and chair of the nonprofit organization. He's also a former Winnipegger. I spoke with him this week about their plans.
Morning.
So tell me what went through your mind when you heard the Sutherland Hotel was burning.
Well, we were shocked and disappointed. Our original intention was to purchase the property, to restore old buildings, which we have experience at. And so we were very surprised with the turn of events.
To restore old buildings for what purpose? What was the initial plan that you had for the Sutherland?
Well, we have experience in the downtown east side of Vancouver with old rooming houses and old hotels. Where the people are living in states that don't focus on wellness. And we were hoping, even though the building was empty, we thought the Sutherland would be a good place to start in Winnipeg for restoration.
And given that you lived here, what was it about that building or that location that made it a fit for you? And as you said, you work with historic buildings. We talked about some of the history of that building after it was lost. I wonder what attracted you from that regard.
Well, I mean, we did a search. We talked to the mayor of Winnipeg, and he knew we had experience with restoration in inner cities. So we did a search, and we just came across that building, and we negotiated a sale of it. And because it was historic, and because I thought it had significance in the neighborhood, so its restoration, I felt, was very pivotal for maybe a wider emergence of health in the community. What was your investment? How much did you buy it for? Well, the sale price is $475,000. Which is much less than some of the costs that we were coming across in Vancouver. But the sale is in a due diligence process, and we hope to carry that through and then have title of the property and then start a different plan, because obviously now it's not a restoration of an old building. Did you consider not going through with it, given that this was just 4 days ahead of the hotel burning? No, actually, we didn't. We determined that whatever the local circumstance was, we were going to take part. We've already been involved with another project in the Point Douglas area about replacing derelict homes with purpose construction. So this seemed like a good extension of that. And but the plans changed. So now it isn't restoring an old building. Now it would be new construction. We've already done the feasibility study with our architects, and it seems that we could have up to 100 affordable rental homes in that building with vibrant business on the main floor, maybe an educational center on the second floor. So it would be a major project, and I think a significant contribution to the community. So will you look for local nonprofits to get involved in the project as well then here? Exactly. We're a nonprofit helping nonprofits. So we're a little unusual because we were capitalized in the early stages by impact investors. So we have a model where we can operate as a nonprofit, but on the business side of it, we can have impact investments operating alongside government low interest loans and grants and so on. But the whole idea is restoring and creating something for the local community. And in this case, I believe it should be a Winnipeg nonprofit that is owning and operating the property long term. Do you have an idea of who you might want to partner with? It's an emergent process. So it's a matter of buying the land, getting a plan, and they will come. And so instead of having it all figured out ahead of time, we've studied complex adaptive systems, so we know how communities can self-organize. So the idea, and I was in Winnipeg recently, meeting groups from many levels, the business level, community levels, other levels, and we think the partners will come into place as the plan gets more into focus.
What opportunities are offered because you are starting from scratch?
I guess it gives the imagination an opportunity to visualize something new, because I think restoring of old buildings is very important to a city, but also new vision is important. So the north end of Winnipeg has gone through many changes, and it has opportunities in the future. So I think that this is an opportunity to let our imagination go free a little bit and let it self-organize from the bottom up. Let the community speak, let government, business, other groups speak, let the Indigenous voice be heard, and see what it will develop to.
Do you have an idea of how much the total build that you've envisioned with the units that you mentioned will cost?
Between $20 and $30 million. Typically, we get started with credit unions, where we purchase the land through credit unions and impact investments. And then we need construction financing. And a project like that needs to be viable long-term. It needs the low interest CMHC financing at occupancy. But once you have the plan well underway and you get it started, there's a much higher probability of getting the support of CMHC.
Do you have a timeline in mind already?
Well, we would go as fast as we could. So we have possession of the property on June 1st, but we've already got our feasibility study underway. We will, once we negotiate with the city and local groups about what type of building they want there, we would begin the process of design. We will look at some innovative construction that saves timelines, and we will go as fast as the pace allows. But we're actually working right across Canada now. We have municipalities and groups calling us because we're offering a new way of doing things that are based in the community, based on impact investments that helps the business community get involved, and working with governments like the City of Winnipeg and the province of Manitoba in innovative ways.
Thank you very much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Keith Weave-Gordon, co-founder and chair of Anhart Community Housing Society. We reached him in Vancouver. I spoke with him earlier this week.
Winkler and Morden, let's talk. CBC wants to get to know you a little bit better. I'm Rosanna Hempel. CBC's Communities in Focus is coming to Winkler and Morden March 17th to 21st. What do you want us to know about your communities? What stories are we missing? I can't wait to meet you. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
So on Tuesday, as part of Communities in Focus, Information Radio is going to be live in Morden to begin with. We're at Decor Cabinets. So that's where we're going to be live on a trade floor there. This is a huge area for manufacturing in Manitoba, this whole corner of the province. So many companies. So that's going to be our live location. And we'll have many interviews also featuring not just talking about manufacturing and trade, but talking about that corner of the province, as you heard. So that's Tuesday mornings live. And then Thursday, we move on to Winkler for a live show with Information Radio next week as well. Two communities so close together with, distinct challenges, and then also some shared growth as well, and so much success. So we're going to learn more about Morden Winkler next week. So hopefully, if you're up in that area and listening, maybe you'll consider joining us at one of our live remotes, or maybe you'll take advantage of Rosanna Hempel being in the area, as you heard, and Nadia Kidwai, who will have office hours as well. So we're really looking forward to being there. Right now, it is 7:23 on your Friday morning, 1 degree in Winnipeg, and a bit of music now from Vancouver's Susie Ungerleider. She is preparing to release a new album in June. It's called Among the Evergreens. We'll soon see evergreens. Well, I guess we're seeing them now. We'll soon see the deciduous trees blooming. But this is called The Wilds.
In among the evergreens of your hazel eyes, a tiny field of flowers blooming in your mind. and by, little bird fly. One day when you go, one day when you fly, remember you were mine. One day you will go, one day by and by, little bird, you fly. One day when you go, one day when you fly, remember you were mine. In among the evergreens of your hazel eyes.
Among the evergreens, that's Susie Ungerleider. She's from Vancouver, and she's just preparing to release her new album in June. It's called The Wilds. Pretty music. Kind of feels like spring, right? Well, hang on to that as our weather prepares to take a bit of a colder, snowier turn, especially in the north. Let's talk sports right now. We have, once again, filling in for Scott Regehr, Paul McGowan, who's been in all week with us. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Marcy.
So Jets at home tonight against Dallas. What are you thinking?
Well, a regulation win tonight would widen their lead atop the Central to 10 points over the Stars. And with the end of the season now in sight, winning the Central is part of the team's focus. So is first place in the Western Conference. But there are also individual accolades being chased. Goalie Connor Hellebuyck has 38 wins on the year and has an outside chance of tying or breaking the record of 47. He said that yesterday. It's something that he's thinking about.
You know, I'd be lying if I said it didn't. It's not like I'm focused on it, but, I definitely see it, and, it'd be cool to achieve that. If it don't happen, it doesn't happen. It's one of those things where it'd be cool to do it and, maybe achieve that, but it's not my singular focus, and right now I'm just kind of taking day by day.
Kind of refreshing that he's willing to admit that he is at least thinking about it, but it will be a tough climb. The Jets have 16 games remaining, and I think, going back to last year's playoffs, the team is going to try to rest Hellebuyck as much as they possibly can, and so does he play 10 of those remaining 16 games, maybe 12? It could be a lot less depending on how soon the Jets wrap up the Western Conference and wrap up that Central Division. So we could see a lot more Eric Comrie than Connor Hellebuyck going forward, but it's likely to be Hellebuyck tonight against the Stars, a 7 p.m. start for that one.
Olympic news. The IOC is getting ready to select a new president.
And ahead of that selection, a group of more than 400 Olympians is attempting to weigh in. Those Olympians, including 20-plus Canadians, signed a letter this week to the candidates for IOC president asking that they make climate their number one priority when making Olympic decisions.
Not just at the games where, all the attention is on the games and all the cameras, but even behind the cameras, behind the scenes, like really pushing that commitment. Before they get on that seat, there's a lot of good words. It looks very nice and that's great, but just hoping that they follow through with that. We really need to hold them more accountable.
Talali Scanlon there, a swimmer from American Samoa. Now, those climate concerns affect every athlete, but it can be especially jarring to hear winter athletes talk about the changes that they've seen. Canadian skier Philippe Marquis, for example, talked about training years ago on glaciers that these days don't get snow anymore. And Marquis is one of those 20-plus Canadians to sign that letter this week asking for change.
Speaking of winter sports, let's finish with curling. Canada looking to go back-to-back at this year's World Championship.
And I would not bet against Rachel Homan right now. She and her team have won back-to-back Scotties. As you said, they won last year's Worlds, losing just once along the way and earning the nickname the Homan Empire. Maybe not especially clever, but it does speak to their dominance and to their focus on winning titles. And that focus is something that lead Sarah Wilkes was asked about in the lead up to these Worlds.
I like to think of it as kind of like a roller coaster or surfing some waves, and there's these ebbs and these flows. The people that you see performing at their highest level consistently are the ones who bring those highs and lows closer together. They ride the waves and make it a little more even. And you're just kind of moving through it and feeling those feelings, but not letting them, have too much of a hold on you throughout the week, because that could be so emotionally draining.
Wilkes talking to TSN with some good perspective there. Of course, it helps that when she's not on the ice, she works as a psychotherapist. Talk about having the mental edge over your opponents. She and Team Canada begin their quest for a second straight World Championship tonight. A midnight start from Korea. So either you are watching that when you get home tonight or maybe catching up tomorrow morning.
All right. Thanks a lot, Paul.
Thanks, Marcy.
Paul McGowan with Morning Sports. We have a small traffic note here. Northbound Route 90, there's a truck stalled in the median lane just north of Inkster. It is currently causing delays. Still ahead, we're going to take you to a local garden center to get some ideas if you're itching to start your garden right now. That's after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Lauren Donnelly in Winnipeg at 7:30. It's -1 and mostly cloudy at the Winnipeg airport. A mix of sun and cloud, becoming cloudy near noon with showers, a high of +5. Homeowners in at least 4 of Winnipeg's 6 English school divisions will be paying more in property taxes. The Louis Riel, St. James Assiniboia, Seven Oaks, and Winnipeg school divisions have passed their budgets for the upcoming school year. To raise funds for growing operation expenses, the school divisions are hiking the tax levied to homeowners. The increases vary from one division to the other, and one of the highest so far is coming out of the St. James Assiniboia school division. Average property owners there will pay about $110 more in taxes annually. This is the second budget cycle in a row where Manitoba's NDP government has allowed school divisions to raise taxes. The PCs have criticized the move, saying the hikes reflect a mismanagement of provincial funding. Brandon Clinic has added 4 new doctors to its roster this past year. They've all been recruited from overseas. CEO Darcy Bell says they need to bring in foreign-trained doctors to keep up with a growing patient list. The federal government requires them to do a labor market impact assessment to show that they can't find a doctor within Canada.
The efforts to grow from within are there. As you know, it just takes a long time. I don't think we'll see the benefit of that for 5 to 10 years, sadly. But we do have the medical schools here. I know we can do it, but there's a short-term gap that we're going to need to fill from foreign.
Bell says the process of recruiting foreign doctors needs to be streamlined. He wants to see more flexibility on work permit deadlines and the roles to fill. In France, there is outrage over the latest tariff threat issued by U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump says unless the EU drops its counter tariff on American whiskey, a 200% import levy will be slapped on French wine and champagne. Anna Cunningham has more.
200% sur prochaine cible de Donald Trump. Les droits de douane.
200%. Everyone in France is talking about US President Donald Trump's latest tariff threat to the EU. If there's one thing that makes the French proud, it's a heritage of producing wine and champagne. Europe sends close to $5 billion worth of wine each year to the US. French Prime Minister François Bayrou is in disbelief. Who isn't able to see that this is something that will cause a trade crisis, he says. Can we allow it? President Trump has made his views on the EU clear.
The EU was set up in order to take advantage of the United States.
In New York, Mario Dutter's wine shop is full of French products.
I would say about 70% at least.
He believes for the US president, this is a game.
They blame poker.
But for Éric Lombard, French economy minister, he says, I want this tariff war to end as quickly as possible. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
A devastating fire hasn't derailed ambitious plans for the former Sutherland Hotel. The 142-year-old Main Street landmark was gutted by flames in January. The fire happened just a few days after it was sold to a BC nonprofit headed by Keith Weeb Gordon. The former Winnipegger says he never considered backing out of the deal. He says he's completed a feasibility study on a new vision for the site.
But the whole idea is restoring and creating something for the local community. And in this case, I believe it should be a Winnipeg nonprofit that is owning and operating the property long term.
Weeb Gordon expects the project will include up to 100 affordable rental units with a total cost in the range of $20 to $30 million. A Manitoba fishing guide says he can't keep rescuing people off Lake Winnipeg if they get stranded. Brady Kingsland says he's had to tow over 100 people since early January. Manitoba RCMP confirmed to CBC News 2 people were stranded on the ice on Monday afternoon about 20 kilometers west of Baconia on Balsam Bay. It was snowing at the time and wind gusts were up to 40 kilometers per hour. Kingsland says too many people are coming out ill-prepared or ignoring the weather forecasts.
We got guys coming and knocking on our doors at 2:30 out in the middle of Lake Winnipeg when, we work 14-hour days running gunning and fishing out here and stuff, and then people waking us up, and I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to do when people are just ungrateful and they don't bring the right stuff.
You can hear the full interview coming up on CBC Manitoba's Radio Noon. And finally, the last of the gray wolves at the Assiniboine Park Zoo has died. The zoo announced yesterday over social media that Bear passed away. He was 15 years old, which the zoo says is at the high end of life expectancy for gray wolves. Earlier this week, staff had noticed he was lame. It was determined his leg was broken. The zoo says it was decided, given his age and other conditions, it was more humane to euthanize him. Bear came to the zoo in 2014 and was part of a pack of 5 wolves. And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg.
Do you remember the wolves in the earlier stories about the zoo, Lauren, when they were redeveloping it and they actually dug out of their enclosure? Do you remember that story?
I don't.
Oh, yeah.
That's wild.
It was so interesting. And I mean, the zoo obviously alleviated it. And they never escaped from the full enclosure, to be clear here. Just the sort of, because there's multiple layers.
Yeah.
But the first one that was keeping them in, yeah. Wolves, man, they're so fascinating when you look at how they think and how they pack and how they work together.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this case, they were like, yeah, this isn't good enough. We're getting out. So maybe Bear was part of that.
Wanted to see the world.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
Let's get into what's happening in our forecast today. It's time for your regional forecast from CBC. And here again is Abby.
Good morning. We're going to be experiencing mixed conditions from the south to the north today. We're talking about snowfall warnings in effect for parts of central Manitoba. And we're tracking this into northern Manitoba. We're looking at heavy snowfall expected in some region. The powerful influence already seen the snow at this point. Southern Manitoba will see cloudy conditions, rain showers later in the day. Looking at Winnipeg at this point, one in the city, we're looking for a mix of sun and clouds today. That would turn by the noon period to showers that will move in. It gets breezy by the afternoon period. We'll warm up to about 5 degrees. And then tonight, that rain will be changing to freezing rain, coming with some light snow and blowing snow near the midnight period. Temperatures in the Pembina Valley region at this point, -2. We are seeing, similar to Winnipeg, a mix of sun and clouds, turning to cloudy conditions later, and then we'll see some showers, freezing rain, and light snow developing around midnight. In the Westman region, -6 at this point in Dauphin and Portage. We're tracking that's a system also in that region. Cloudy skies will bring light snow this afternoon. A chance of freezing rain. Expect highs near 0. Some blowing snow will come overnight. Dauphin, -13. Cloudy skies will bring light snow also your way today. High around -5. And into Lake region, similar conditions, cloudy conditions, light snow expected. That should taper off in the afternoon. The winds get breezy. Temperatures will be reaching around -3. Now, tracking from the central into the northern part of the
This
province.
is where it gets different.
This is where everything begins to build up. The power flim-flom, we're already seeing that snow that started earlier. The winds picked up there. Now it's blowing around, it's drifting around, and it's going to get heavy as we get into the day. Hence, this snowfall warning we have in effect. And we're looking at about 15 to 25 centimeters once the system moves through that region. And as it moves, it's tracking into the northern, into Churchill. But for Thompson at this point, we're seeing minus 16. Snow also moving towards your direction. We're looking at about 5 to 10 centimeters today. Tonight, that snow continues even into tomorrow morning. Now, Churchill at minus 29 at this time, we're seeing this snow will be coming your way. The wind chill already feels like minus 36 this morning. We're also looking at a lot of accumulation of snow in that region. So across the province, the southern regions will be seeing more like rain and light snow that will blow as the wind picks up, while in the northern parts, it's more of the heavier snow.
Shoveling.
We get heavier snow in that part of the province, which would also be coming with the wind chill, especially for Churchill and the Power. The Power already getting it now. Once it moves into Churchill.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's get into what's happening here in our traffic situation with more in the commute. Here's May.
We got a call about northbound Route 90, just north of Inkster. There's a stalled car in the middle lane that's been causing some delays. As well, just taking a look at downtown, there's a couple closures I want to mention. Northbound Osborne is closed for construction at St. Mary's, so detour through St. Mary's. As well, northbound Memorial is closed just from York to Portage, so expect delays around Ledge there. And let me know if anything else is coming up on your commute today. 204-788-3093.
Well, I already started Googling spring plants. What can I plant? Where can I plant them?
Okay, yep.
I get really excited at this time of year, May. And then I always feel bad for my indoor plants because I start to neglect them because I'm thinking about the things I'm going to plant outside.
Do you have any plants? What you might plant?
Outside?
Yeah.
Well, I love these Carl Forster grasses, right? They come up and they almost look like, they look like stalks of wheat a little bit. Yep. But they grow if you have a good full sunspot here. But I also know there's a lot of Prairie Originals plants, like things that just naturally take root. Because I need plants you can neglect that'll grow big.
Go for the native ones, yeah.
So I need some vines that are going to cover the side of my garage. So I've been looking at hops, and then I've been looking at Virginia creeper. But I always have to Google them what's going to be pet friendly for the dogs too.
Oh yeah. I planted a bunch of morning glory inside over the winter just because I was bored and wanted some flowers inside.
Did
and
they
it
sprout?
actually worked out pretty well. Yeah.
Ooh, good.
They did.
I didn't do any starters myself this year, but I've been Googling away. Abby, you're already in on gardening thinking too?
The only plant that survives with me is the spider plants. Low budget.
Yeah.
Low maintenance.
Jean-Paul came home one day. He missed. He had in his office. He came home with these like sad 2 plants, and I'm like, who are these guys? Like, what's going on? And he's like, I'm switching offices. These guys have been with me for ever, and they've been just barely holding on.
The office
so
plants.
I know
Never the
that looks like it sounds like the spider plant.
It was a spider plant. Full on was. Anyway, I repotted it, and then it was thriving again. There are always those tough varieties, right? So let's give our plants some love as we wait for the season to turn. Well, it might feel like it's never going to make a turn if you're somebody with that itchy green thumb, but we'll get there. We're getting close to the gardening season now, and it's never too early to start planning. CBC Manitoba's community reporter, Shanley Vidal, learned a little bit more about how to actually get this head start.
Spring is well on its way. That means gardeners will soon be digging green thumbs into the soil. I'm Shanley Vidal, and I stopped by a Manitoba greenhouse to get some gardening tips.
My name is Caitlin Wickdahl. I am the events coordinator here at Chalmerdine Garden Center. Everybody's excited. They all want color now. They want to get outside in their garden, get their hands dirty. The easiest seeds to start are lettuce and carrots because they germinate almost within a week or two, and they're super easy to grow. You can put them anywhere. And just in a sunny spot, you just sprinkle them on and keep them moist, and then you get lettuce just to eat all throughout the summer.
Some people might have seeds left over from last year or the year before. Can they still use those? Are those seeds still good, or should they be getting fresh seeds?
So ideally you're getting fresh seeds, but your seed packet will have an expiry date on it as well. So you can always check that. But my rule is just kind of give it a try. Why not stick them in, see what comes up? Definitely people are leaning towards growing their own food. That's been a big trend ever since COVID, really. So again, starting seeds is a great thing. We have lots of citrus plants.
So this is maybe, what, 4 feet high?
About that,
Yeah. How big can they grow?
So they will eventually grow, I mean, they could grow 20 feet, but in your house it's probably only going to grow 6 or 7. And you can just keep pruning it to keep that height down so it's not, you know, touching your ceiling.
It's just spilling over with lemons.
Yes, yeah, it's very exciting. And sometimes people have no idea that they can do this here, but definitely it's possible. We have avocado trees, olive trees, fig trees, and we even got these really cool mulberry trees in. It came in and was just a whole bunch of sticks with no leaves at all, and it was all wrapped up. And then once we unwrapped it and brought it into the nice warm heat of the greenhouse, it foliated completely, and now it's even blooming and we're getting berries on it. So just something unique that you could have in the house outside for the summertime and then bring back in for the winter, as long as you have a really good sunny spot for it. Right now, it doesn't look busy up front here, but behind the scenes, we're super, super busy planting over 100,000 annual plants for everybody to buy.
So these are the babies?
Yes. So right now on our left is the hostas. So those are perennial plants that we're actually starting. So we'll be able to grow them and have them in our perennial greenhouse. And then a lot of our hanging baskets are here. So we have geraniums starting. Geraniums, for instance, are super easy as an annual, and all they require is a little bit of deadhead every once in a while. So they're really little. These are how we get them in, just a little tiny plug. And this little plant will actually end up being 10 to 12 inches tall and nice and bushy. The biggest misconception with plants and flowers is that they take a lot of work. Most plants will do better if you ignore them a bit more. They don't like too much water. They don't like too much attention.
It's expected that garden centers are going to be pretty busy starting in May with Mother's Day weekend and, of course, May long weekend. Shanley Vidal, CBC News, Headingley.
Someday I'm gonna live in your house up on the hill. And when your skinhead neighbor goes missing, I'll plant a garden in the yard. Then they're gluing roses on a flatbed. You should see it, I mean thousands. I grew up here till it all went up in flames, except the notches in the door frame. I don't know when you got taller. See our reflection in the water off a bridge at the Huntington. I hopped the fence when I was 17. Then I knew what I wanted. And when I grow up, I'm gonna look up from my phone and see my life. And it's gonna be just like my recurring dream. I'm at the movies, I don't remember what I'm seeing. The screen turns into a tidal wave. Then it's a dorm room like a hedge maze. And when I find you, you touch my leg and I insist, but I wake up before we do it. I don't know how, but I'm taller. The doctor put her hands over my liver. She told me my resentment's getting smaller. No, I'm not afraid of hard work. I get everything I want. I have everything I wanted.
Phoebe Bridgers and Garden Song on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. On our Friday morning, 1 degree in Winnipeg and a high of 5 today, mix of sun and cloud, and at noon we could see a few showers. Still ahead in the show today after 8 o'clock on the program, Canada is adding more on the list of counter tariffs on U.S. imports, including kitchenware. So we're going to talk to a Manitoba business that's concerned about that and about the impact the 25% imports tariff could have on them. So the counter tariffs, remember, are now going to affect both economies as well. Well, let's talk about relationships when it comes to what's happening currently with the U.S.-Canada trade war. For American Paul Coulson, who's my next guest, crossing the border into Canada as a way of life. He lives in an isolated community that you've likely heard about before. It's Northwest Angle. So this is a tiny sliver of the States that's sandwiched between Manitoba, Ontario, and a body of water. And since he was a kid, Paul's been making the 2.5-hour drive from the inlet to Winnipeg. But as tensions between the two nations, of course, continue to rise, he can't help but wonder where it leaves him and others on the inlet. And what an interesting perspective. Paul is with us via Zoom. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So how intertwined has your life, given your unique situation geographically, been with, the American-Canadian experience over the years, Paul?
Oh, well, we're surrounded by Canada, so it's 100% intertwined. My wife's Canadian. Kids are dual citizens. My kids were born in Winnipeg. They went to school in Winnipeg. Yeah, all of our business has to go through Canada to get to here. It's, we have a fishing resort, so I'm the third generation on it. So everything Canada does impacts me.
What's it feel like right now where you live and with your neighbors in terms of what's happening with the tariff wars and the talk of annexation?
Oh, honestly, I know it's a big deal in Canada. I was kind of looking around on the global side of things here. I know like I say, it's a big deal for Canadians. Truly, even for us, I'm letting it just kind of blow by me.
It's not really resonating in the same way.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No.
And can you articulate why, from your perspective, like in terms of, as you're drawing that contrast, the level of concern obviously is different. But from the American perspective, do you listen to what your president is saying and, I don't know, hear it in a different context, perhaps? Like, how are you absorbing what he's been saying?
Oh, I kind of sometimes I kind of wonder what the overall goal is. I'm looking at this kind of like the whole Gaza thing. All of a sudden, the Middle East decided to step up and rebuild Gaza. So I don't know really what the long-term goal is, but I don't think annexing Canada is the long-term goal.
What's it been like living so close to the border? What have you noticed around you in terms of activity?
Well, we're, our whole world here is based on fishing. Okay. And so we don't really have much. I mean, there's an ice road here that comes down from Canada. And so those Canadians will come back and forth. They come to the bar and they got a post office boxes down here at the post office. So that kind of continues. 20% of our little one-room school is, Canadian. So, kind of a daily thing. It hasn't really changed a whole lot, no.
I heard you've noticed some helicopter traffic flying around, though, and a little bit of a change in terms of traffic from Ontario. Is that right?
I'm not sure where the helicopters are coming from. They're parallel on the border. So if they're a little bit closer on this side, then it's you look for the green stripe on it. That'd be Border Patrol. It's kind of, I don't know. I think that's just more of a highly visual thing. I can't remember the last time I saw much enforcement, actually people on the ground as far as monitoring the border here. Flying overhead doesn't do a whole lot.
How has crossing the border into Canada changed throughout your life?
Oh, okay. All right. So 100%. It used to be, didn't have to have ID. The Sprague, the superintendent of the Sprague Customs, we used to cross all the time. He had a trailer here at our place. I grew up calling him Uncle Lauren. We'd come through there and it would take forever because my customs officers would be wanting plant slips from my mom so they could propagate their own plants. My sister and myself would go in the back room where the coffee was, and we'd sit there while they were all job owning. Customs took a while back then because they visited. Now it's, the barriers to travel there's a lot. There's a lot. You can, right now, never mind all the ID requirements, but, since Canada legalized pot, I think it was in 2018, a Minnesotan or any American, just let's talk Minnesotan, can't cross the border forever. There's no coming back from that. If they have a DUI, they can't. There's no forgiveness. Okay, so in terms of my state, and you got to remember, my whole business is focused on tourism.
Yes.
There's currently, I guess, there's about 670,000 Minnesotans that aren't allowed to come to my business because Canada won't let them drive through. So even if they're not driving, even if they're sitting in the back seat, it's only a 45-minute little loop.
I'm confused right now. Why can't they come? That number of people through?
Because they had DUI.
Okay, because of differences in the laws, and because if they have a DUI in the books, there's some kind of a law around crossing the border. Yeah.
No, it's when Canada legalized pot. If you've ever had a DUI, you're not coming across.
Okay.
One.
Like we're sliding into another story here, and I can hear somebody off mic talking. I can't help but wonder if that's your wife, because I'm wondering about. You said your wife's Canadian, so what's it like in your household navigating all of what's happening right now between the two countries?
Oh, it's very peaceful in our household. We've been married 30 years. I mean, you got to understand, this is politicians. I got loads of friends in Canada. This is politicians talking. And so this will pass.
How is your business going to be affected by the tariffs potentially? I'm curious.
It won't be, not at all. This side of, in this part of the world, we're not importing any steel, aluminum, whatever. There's been so many barriers. Canada's put up so many barriers for us trying to just exist here. That we're circumnavigating them already. I mean, stuff comes across the lake. It's just, Canada is a very difficult, if you live where I live, Canada is a very difficult neighbor. And so you kind of already make plans and build your business insulated from whatever they do, because it's been very aggressive, very hard for us to live. We make our living fishing, and there's been so many conflicts about, if you're an American staying in Minnesota, then there was different laws. It got to the point where back in the, I guess, late 90s, we tried to secede from the country, the United States, to try to address some of these problems. We're just there's like 12 family-run resorts here. It's just been an awful lot of energy trying to, I guess, put the thumb on us.
Just last, I wonder in the wider community, even though it's peaceful in your household, if there's, what's it like? Are you seeing increased Canadian patriotism that is sort of on display? And if so, how have you noticed that?
Haven't really, to tell you the honest truth. I think we're going to be run up to see Yellowstone there at the Comedy Club. We'll see how that goes. I don't expect my Minnesota plate to draw any attention. I was driving through Oklahoma here just the other day on a trip. Manitoba plates were going by me. Nobody cares. Everybody's fine with that. I think from a patriotism standpoint, it's been a heck of a shot in the arm for you guys in Canada. I mean, everybody's just proud about being Canadian. I think that's a good thing.
Thank you very much, Paul. We'll have to check in with you later as you know, everything continues to develop. But what a unique place you live in, and please say hi to your wife as well. We know she's been listening and part of this as well off camera there. So appreciate having you on.
You bet. Yeah, she's
care.
my fact checker.
You take care.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. That's Paul Coulson. He's an American resident in the Northwestern Angle. It is time to check in with Lauren Donnelly for headlines.
Good morning. A fire hasn't derailed ambitious plans for the former Sutherland Hotel. We'll hear what the owner of the property has planned for the site's future. And one clinic in Brandon says it's recruiting doctors from overseas to fill the gap. More on those stories after World Report.
Partly cloudy, 1 degree. We're heading for 5, and we could see some cloud cover and showers near noon. We'll start with a mix of sun and cloud in Winnipeg. Snowfall warning for central and northern Manitoba already starting in Flin Flon. We're talking 15 to 25 centimeters affecting Flin Flon, Thompson, and then eventually up to Churchill. 788-3093 if you see any additional problems on the drive that we should be passing along. And after 8, Canada is adding more to its list of counter tariffs on U.S. imports, as I mentioned, including kitchenware. We're going to check in with a local business who has concerns about that. Stay with us.
On Cue with Tom Power.
The actress Sandra Oh is a Canadian icon, and for her latest film, she took on a real challenge. A future in which climate change has been solved, but everyone must end their time on Earth at age 50.
I'm not ready. No one is ever ready.
She'll be here to tell you about the film and why it spoke specifically to her. That's coming up on Cue, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Mark Kelly. Canada and the European Union are both in the sights of the Trump administration when it comes to tariffs and security. The EU's top diplomat, Kaja Kallas, on her strategy and how the EU can work with Canada. Coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. Outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will meet with the Governor-General this morning to submit his resignation. The new Liberal leader, Mark Carney, will take his place as Canada's next Prime Minister. A swearing-in ceremony will get underway at Rideau Hall later today. Carney expected to lead a smaller cabinet. And CBC News has just learned that François-Philippe Champagne will take on the role of Finance Minister and Dominic LeBlanc the role of Intergovernmental Affairs as well as Trade, with special responsibility for Canada-US relations. Janice McGregor joins us from our Parliamentary Bureau in Ottawa with more. Janice, so who else is in and who's out?
John, Mark Carney's challenge today is to deliver change and continuity at the same time, because this is still a Liberal government that tomorrow has to focus on the same top priority it had yesterday, defending against Donald Trump's threats. The 3 major ministers out working on that file yesterday, Melanie Joly, who is leading on the diplomatic front, chairing talks with G7 foreign ministers, Dominic LeBlanc and François-Philippe Champagne, who've been out front on the tariff file, they all not just endorsed, but added their organizational muscle to Carney's leadership campaign and continue to have big seats at the cabinet table. The latter 2 had a bit of a laugh about this after their meeting in Washington yesterday.
They understand that despite the fact that we may be in an electoral process in the coming weeks, that this is priority number 1 for Minister LeBlanc and I. You know, we will still be ministers during that period, or at least we'll see tomorrow. But certainly,
that was a mistake.
No, there's a good chance.
But what of Carney's 3 rivals in the leadership campaign? Chrystia Freeland, who was on CNN singing Carney's praises yesterday, is coming back into cabinet as Carney's transport minister. But Karina Gould, who was previously a major player for Trudeau, is not. There have, however, been conversations about some kind of a role for Frank Baylis, who doesn't currently have a seat. But this cabinet is going to be smaller.
So, Janice, a new Prime Minister, a new team. What do we know now about Carney's plan in the days ahead?
Well, he's going to meet reporters to take a few questions to set the tone after his ministry is sworn in, but then he's going to be off to meet with his new ministers to plot strategy. Carney isn't calling an election this weekend. He's planning a brief trip overseas first to meet with allies in the UK and France now that he's Prime Minister. But he has only days, really, to do a few things in government before everyone pivots into campaign mode, asking voters for a new mandate so they can keep governing beyond just a few weeks.
Janice McGregor in our Parliamentary Bureau. Janice, thank you.
You're welcome.
And CBC Radio will cover the swearing-in of Mark Carney and his new cabinet today as they form Canada's government at a time of economic uncertainty. Join Catherine Cullen and myself live at 11 a.m. Eastern on CBC Radio 1 and the CBC News app. Just click on Local. G7 foreign ministers are wrapping up their summit today in Charlevoix, Quebec. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly just spoke to media saying they achieved consensus on the crisis in Ukraine.
All G7 foreign ministers agree with the U.S. proposal of a ceasefire that is supported by Ukrainians, and we are now studying and looking at the Russian reaction. So ultimately, the ball is now in Russia's court.
Joly says she also had frank conversations with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. These included President Donald Trump's tariff war and calls for Canada to become a 51st state. And she wants the conversation to continue.
What I can say is I've already mentioned to Secretary Rubio that it was important to be able to organize a call between the President and the Prime Minister, and I know that we're working to do that in the next couple of days.
A final communique from the foreign ministers is expected later today. But there's also another country requiring Carney's attention, India. The diplomatic ties between the two countries are strained. This after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau accused the Indian government and its agents of killing a Canadian Sikh activist. Our South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji has more.
There are opportunities to rebuild the relationships with India.
Those words from Mark Carney in his campaign to become Liberal leader, a welcome balm to the strained diplomatic ties between Canada and India. Carney is set to be sworn in as Prime Minister, and Indian officials have been preparing for weeks, a strategy centered around one key fact.
He is not Trudeau.
Ajay Bisaria served as a High Commissioner of India to Canada. He says the ill will towards outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is strong, with many in India blaming Trudeau personally.
Potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen.
After he stood up in Parliament and accused Indian government agents of being involved in the killing of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar on Canadian soil. Last fall, the tiff escalated when both countries expelled the other's diplomats. Bisaria says that has come up often in recent meetings of former diplomats and other officials over how to get the relationship back on track.
The conversations we are having informally, we seem to agree that the low-hanging fruit is restoring the High Commissioners.
Trudeau and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi have also had a tumultuous personal relationship. And while a new leader in Canada is an opening to improve ties,
a note of caution must be added,
says Suhasini Haidar, diplomatic editor at the Hindu newspaper.
Just because Mr. Trudeau has left does not mean that the issues between India and Canada, particularly on the Khalistan issue, those are not going to go away.
With the trial of the 4 Indian nationals charged in relation to the Nijjar killing also pending. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
Meanwhile, in Europe, France is leading the charge against Donald Trump's latest European tariff threat. The U.S. president vowing to slap a 200% tariff on Europe's wines and other alcoholic drinks, retaliation for reciprocal tariffs announced by the EU earlier in the week. Anna Cunningham has more.
200% sur prochaine cible de Donald Trump. Les droits de douane.
200%. Everyone in France is talking about US President Donald Trump's latest tariff threat to the EU. If there's one thing that makes the French proud, it's a heritage of producing wine and champagne. Europe sends close to $5 billion worth of wine each year to the US. French Prime Minister François Bayrou is in disbelief. Who isn't able to see that this is something that will cause a trade crisis, he says. Can we allow it? President Trump has made his views on the EU clear.
The EU was set up in order to take advantage of the United States.
In New York, Mario Dutta's wine shop is full of French products.
I would say about 70% at least.
He believes for the US president this is a game.
They playing poker.
But for Eric Lombard, French economy minister, he says, I want this tariff war to end as quickly as possible. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
For 3 decades, Sonia Sywink's death has remained a mystery, one of hundreds of missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada whose cases remain unsolved. Now, CBC's The Fifth Estate reveals how a questionable coroner's report and a decades-old police investigation may have contributed to her murder going unsolved, and that has left her sister trying to solve the case. Connie Walker reports.
You know, she was small, very petite. She wasn't really tough. She wasn't really made tough.
In 1994, the body of Sonia Sywink was found in a small park 40 kilometers outside of London, Ontario. Her unsolved murder haunts her sister, Maggie Sywink.
I do not believe my sister would go to a place like that willingly. I believe she was killed somewhere else and brought there.
Sonia's homicide is being investigated by the Ontario Provincial Police. Maggie says the OPP told her they didn't have any new leads. That's when she decided to go out and get her own.
She was murdered. She was murdered, yeah. And her body was found. The last place she was seen was across the street there.
The Fifth Estate has obtained the original 1994 autopsy. It noted over 20 contusions and abrasions on the front and back of Sonia's body. The coroner's report found trauma associated with cocaine intake could have caused Sonia's death, but whether it was accidental or homicide could not be determined. That ruling was made a year after Sonia's death, around the same time that the original OPP investigation seemed to wind down.
It makes you drop to your knees because it's totally shocking.
But 22 years later, in 2016, the chief pathologist of Ontario, Michael Polanin, reviewed Sonia's case. He found that her injuries were most likely due to assault and determined that the manner of death was homicide. The OPP declined our interview request but said Sonia's case is active and ongoing. Connie Walker, CBC News, Toronto.
The Fifth Estate's investigation, A Sister's Promise, airs tonight at 9 p.m. on CBC Television and CBC Gem, or on YouTube later this morning. Well, that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. So wherever you're listening across Manitoba, I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and you're listening to CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Coming up in this half hour of the morning show, almost $30 billion worth of U.S. imports are being targeted by the federal government as Canada adds more to the long list of counter tariffs. So we had the initial list of counter tariff goods on March 4th, and now it is longer. For Manitoba businesses, the ongoing uncertainty makes all of this difficult to plan a way out. We're going to talk to a business owner about how this will impact them, and specifically we're looking at some of the different kitchenware items that have been added to this new list. So stay tuned for that. As well, Lauren Donnelly in a moment with our latest local news headlines from the province. Stay with us. Hi, Lauren. What's going on?
All right. Some homeowners in Winnipeg will be paying more in property taxes. The hike is coming in at least 4 of the city's 6 English school divisions. This is the second budget cycle in a row where the NDP government has allowed school divisions to raise taxes. That's a move that the opposition is criticizing. And a Manitoba fishing guide says he has had to tow over 100 people who became stranded on Lake Winnipeg. But he says he can't keep it up. Brady Kingsland says too many people are ignoring weather forecasts and showing up ill-prepared. I'll have more on those stories in your next local news at 8:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Lauren.
Thank you.
All right. Let's get to Abby Adeyemi, who's going to look at our forecast here. Abby, what's up?
the southern regions will be experiencing a mix of showers, freezing rain, and light snow today, while in the central parts into the north, we're going to see heavy snow with significant accumulations as we get into the weekend. Heavy snow has already started in the Power and Flin Flon, and that's tracking into Churchill. By tomorrow morning, we should be seeing about 15 to 25 centimeters before it eases on Sunday. Conditions in Winnipeg at this point, it is still warm in the city. These partly cloudy conditions will give way to a mix of sun and clouds as we get into the day. It then turns back to cloudy conditions by the noon period. We will see showers move in. It gets breezy in the afternoon. Temperatures will be reaching around 5 degrees. However, for tonight, we're going to see that wind gust pick up. Rain showers will be switching to freezing rain in the evening. Then some light snow and blowing snow will come into the midnight period into tomorrow morning before it eases off. So across the regions, we're looking at varying conditions from rain in the south to heavy snow in the north. The central region, we see light snow, blowing snow into the northern region, and the heavy snow continues as we track it towards Churchill. But compared to Winnipeg, the north is much colder with that snow and wind chill that they're feeling this morning. While Winnipeg is just going to be seeing rain today and then snow in the midnight period. Right now, 1, and we're looking for a mix of sun and clouds today.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
May McKillop's in to update our commute now.
Couple closures downtown in Winnipeg here. Northbound Osborne is closed for construction at St. Mary's, so you want to take St. Mary's for the detour. As well, northbound Memorial is closed from York to Portage, so expect delays in that area. And as Abby said, we're looking at the snowfall warning coming in. So if you're planning your commute later in the day, plan for some freezing rain in the Winnipeg area and some snow in the other regions. Anything else along the commute? We have a bit more time for me to pass that message along. So anything getting in the way, stalled car, traffic lights not working, anything like that, give us a call and let us know. The number to call is 204-788-3093.
As I mentioned, almost $30 billion worth of U.S. imports will be targeted by the federal government with counter tariffs. The new list is in addition to the first wave of counter tariffs already imposed by Ottawa last week. Cookware and kitchenware is one of the many items being hit by retaliatory tariffs. Those tariffs will be paid for by Canadian businesses. I was just looking at the list here. So kitchen appliances, stoves, microwaves, bread makers, hot plates, toasters, coffee makers, portable stoves, kitchenware and articles of porcelain or china, ceramic tableware, kitchenware, and other articles and parts made of iron or steel. Confused? Well, imagine running a business that sells kitchenware. Mark Bartling is with us. He's with Happy Cooker, a longtime kitchenware store, of course, in Winnipeg's Osborne Village. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's it like to navigate all of this?
It's quite tricky, actually. The first round hasn't impacted at the moment, but it will very soon. We're looking at mainly the steel-based products like, your fry pans and cookware and cast iron is the first round. I think it's, in general, everyone is quite confused in going through the list as to what is being imposed with a tariff and what isn't. And as you said, this is the first round and it's only 20% of goods coming in from the US. And April is the targeted date for the balance, which is some 120% left. And we don't know where it's going to go.
So tell me a little bit about your business in terms of what you would be concerned of that would be affected by, because there's tariffs, but now there's
Correct.
counter tariffs selling into the United States. So what are your greatest concerns and what kind of products would you be curious about beyond the kitchenware? The pans, as you mentioned?
Well, initially, it's a good question because we deal with the majority of our goods comes through suppliers that are Canadian-based, and they warehouse products that they import from the US. The confusion, I think, is a lot of products that go into the US will be subjected to a tariff and then subjected to a second tariff when it comes to Canada. That's the confusion. So if you have something, for example, that is $100 and it comes in the US and it's $125 and it comes to Canada and it's 25% on the tariff as well as the product. So that's where the confusion lies from business planning. And initially it is cookware and it's steel-based and cast iron-based product. A lot of our other product is direct from Europe or Asia and won't be impacted so much by tariffs because we're dealing direct, or our suppliers are dealing directly with them and not through the US. But it's very difficult to navigate as to what we do. I mean, tariffs are here. It's something new. Nobody wants it, but we just have to look at it and work our way through it.
I just want to clarify here because it gets confusing, of course, for everyone here. But a counter tariff would be paid for by a Canadian on a U.S. good that you've imported here into Canada. And do you know yet if you're going to pass on that, additional counter tariff, right? Like if you've had to pay more for a good, do you know yet how you're going to handle that in terms of having to pass it on to the Canadians that are buying from you?
Well, tariffs are nothing new in the market. They've been around forever, but the severity and the amount of tariffs is what is very concerning, and it's the intent of the tariff. The counter tariff is a response, and it's, I think, a good response from Canada, but 25% is a lot of money, and it's sort of like, well, okay, we'll go on a permanent sale in store and take 25% off all our product. We're not going to make a lot of money. To have a tariff imposed of 25% is not sustainable in the short to the long term. And it'll be interesting when the whole world is paying tariffs and counter-tariffing and where we'll end up. But it is a charge that is paid for by the consumer. And most businesses will have to pass that on. You can't embed an amount that is as high as 25% and just cop that on a lot of your stock. It's not sustainable, and that will impact ultimately on your ability to purchase more items for a sale and your ability to employ people.
What do you bring in from the U.S. that you may consider a change to, or maybe even stopping bringing in?
That's another good question. We've always been friends to our southern neighbours in the United States, and we have tried and true, reliable, quality product that is made in the United States. And it's sad that the attack is on business, but for us, initially, it's going to be a steel-based product and cast iron-based product that is going to be hit hard. Before you even look at tariffs, just the ability to ship items that weigh significant amounts, that is impacting on the prices as they are at the moment. Adding another 25% is prohibitive. So we will probably look at alternate suppliers. We're looking at Canadian manufacturers for cookware, which is surging at the moment. We're looking at other products that are Canadian-based, which is difficult because we rely on the US so much. And now we're being forced, literally, to look at other markets. And I think it's in some ways it's a good thing. It's a wake-up call that we have to look at the power that we have with our purchasing, and not just as a retailer, but as a consumer.
Thank you very much for joining us, Mark, as you try to sort through this. I guess as a last, I should ask you one last question. Where are you getting answers? Like as a business owner, where are you actually finding clarity on all of this?
Well, it's a wait-and-see attitude. The answers will come, and they've started to, through our suppliers, because we're receiving notifications of the imposition of the tariff, mainly from the news. I mean, there's information on the Canadian government website and all of that, but if it's 25%, you're looking at your products and you're wondering, all right, are there components that are made in the US, or is it 100% out of France? What is it? So we'll know from our suppliers mainly as to which products and when are going to be impacted by the tariffs.
Thank you very much for being with us today. Appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you.
That is Mark Bartling with The Happy Cooker. Time right now is 8:21.
Every corner of Canada deserves a voice. Local news connects us from coast to coast to coast. CBC is expanding local news locations all over the country, and we're looking for storytellers. Help us tell your story and make a difference in your community. Visit cbc.ca/workwithus to apply today.
Time right now is 8:21, and are you having the dance right now about whether or not you should wash your car and when? Abby and I talk about this all the time because Abby's car is always impeccable, like impeccably clean.
I just try to take care of it. You take care of the car, it takes care of you.
Yeah. So when do you choose to wash? What are you doing? Because we've had this spring weather. You never know, right?
I actually do my washing late in the evening when there are less cars on the road. Because if you try to do your washing during rush hour, you will get home and go, it's a waste.
But what do you do? I mean, I should have been clear there in terms of the weather because it needs to be cold for the car to stay clean. But so do you sometimes skip it? How do you decide?
Okay, if it's if we're going to get freezing rain, I try to skip because it's not going to make sense. You're going to get that rain coming in and it's going to look really slippery when you're done. So you wait out the freezing rain period, and if the temperatures are going to be if the wind chill is going to be anything in the range of minus 22 and 22, 23 upwards, you don't do it because except you're ready for some deep wiping of the vehicle, because no matter what you do, it immediately comes out. If you have a car wash that has a heated blower and everything, you get out of that circle. If you don't wipe immediately, your doors would get frozen. Some handles will get frozen. A lot. It's the dance. You're not gonna like it.
I call it the dance of spring.
You're not gonna like it. So
everyone does it across the country.
If there's a wind chill, try to avoid washing your car wet till
it's. And I don't know if the wind chill will affect it so much, but the temperature certainly will affect it.
One thing is, if it's going to be mushy out, always wait till there are less cars on the road. Wait till the evening period.
Now, the payoff here is, though, when it is going to be mushy out, it is a lot nicer if you're heading out in the warmer weather, especially if you're, out using the wand and spraying your own car on your own. CBC's Mark Hargraves, I told you this is a conversation across the country, headed out to a spray car wash, not here, in Windsor, Ontario, to check out the action.
How long has it been since you got your car washed?
God, the beginning of winter started now I got all the salt stuck to my car. I haven't washed it since.
And so how good is it going to feel for you to drive out of here today with a clean car?
Oh, it's going to make me happy. It's going to make me happy.
Are you worried about how much work it's going to be to clean it?
A little bit. It's going to be tough, but, I'd rather the warm weather than a dirty car, so I'll take it.
Do you enjoy washing the car?
I actually do. I'm a clean person. I try to be clean, so getting to wash my car for the first time since the beginning of winter, it feels good. So I enjoy it.
And the boss don't mind sometimes if you're at the booth, at the car wash. Talking about the car wash.
You're getting your car washed today. It seems like a great day to do it. Do you like getting your car washed?
Oh, yeah.
How much better does it make you feel rolling out of here with a nice clean car?
Well, 100%. Yeah. Feels good. I want to clean everything.
When's the last time you've done your car?
Well, I do them both once a week.
That's pretty frequent. How do you do that through the winter in the freezing temperatures?
Same way as they do it in the summer in the hot temperatures.
You just bring it inside here and you don't find you have a problem?
Yep, that's it, yeah.
A lot of people do wait until this time of year. Do you think they are fools? They should be doing it all year round like you?
Well, sure, and depending on how much snow you get, because the salt's on the road, you want to get the salt off your car.
Right on. Well, I'll leave you to cleaning your car, and thanks so much for your time today.
You're welcome. Okay, Mike, nice talking to you.
So it's a nice day to get your car washed. How's it going so far?
So good. In winter, I couldn't wash the car. So in a month, I wash my car twice from here. And I do have the automatic wash also. Yeah, I take care of my car. Good.
Right, it feels good to have a nice clean car. Yeah. And I saw you do the inside as well. That's got to feel good. How did it go?
Yeah, it was good. The vacuum is over here is good.
So you're going to feel better after today leaving here with the fresh car?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Some of the work gets kind of hard.
Should have seen Abby cringe when that first person said she hadn't cleaned her car since the beginning of winter, right?
I'm going to ask you the same question. When was the last time you washed your car?
I was pretty good, just 2.5 weeks ago, I think.
I thought you were going to say like 13 hours ago. Maybe I did
13 hours
under
ago.
24 hours ago.
Too much splashing this week. I feel like it's just going to get dirty again. I don't know. I'll tell you what, though, I do hate brushing up against it and getting that dust on your clothes. That's the worst. Our forecast today, you be the judge if you want to wash your car or not. It's 1 degree in Winnipeg right now. Mix of sun and cloud, a high of 5. It's going to be messier. And we also are going to get rain. So the rain's going to do a little bit of the washing. I know it's not technically washing, but there's going to be some rain around noon. 8:27 a.m. is the time right now, and we are going to hear what's coming up on the Radio Noon call-in shortly. But right now, a bit of music. It's Friday, why not? Patrick Watson and Charlotte Cardin with Gordon in the Willows.
It's been a long, long time. It's been a long, long time. I found you hiding underneath the willow trees. The way the wind, it even speaks through me. Your memories are my words. You are the wild inside the wilderness. You are the quiet, the gentleness. Your melody's the birds. It's been a long, long time. It's been a long, long time. I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna
Her voice is so pretty, right? Charlotte Cardin with Montreal artist Patrick Watson and Gordon in the Willows. I want to mention something coming up today on Radio Noon's call-in. March is Nutrition Month in Canada. It can be challenging to feed yourself a nutritious meal in light of rising cost of food and now these tariffs. A Winnipeg dietitian is going to be a part of the live call-in between 12:30 and 1 o'clock today on Radio Noon. So make sure you check it out with Marjorie Dalhouse. Right now, here's CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Lauren Donnelly in Winnipeg at 8:30. It's -1 and mostly cloudy at the Winnipeg airport. A mix of sun and cloud, becoming cloudy near noon with showers, a high of +5. A new Brandon doctor says the process to get to Canada needs to be streamlined. Mohammed Khan says the current permitting process doesn't reflect the urgent need for doctors in communities. Khan, who moved from the UK, says it was a roller coaster getting to Brandon at the start of the year. He wishes the visa process was smoother because the community desperately needs doctors. He's already seeing up to 30 patients a day.
It was a surprise for me. First day when I started my clinic, people had no family doctor for 6 years. 6 years, and they've been going for a same-day walk-in, waiting to see a doctor for 3 hours.
Doctors Manitoba says the province needs 375 to 400 more physicians. In Westman, Prairie Mountain Health says they need to recruit around 40 to 45 doctors to fill gaps. CBC News has confirmed some of the changes Prime Minister-designate Mark Carney is planning to make to the Liberal cabinet. Carney is being sworn in today as PM, and he's shuffling 2 senior ministers. Dominique Leblanc is being moved out of finance. He is going to trade with a special responsibility for Canada-US relations, and replacing Leblanc at finance will be François-Philippe Champagne. As well, Carney is naming Toronto area MP Kamal Khera as health minister. CBC Radio's special coverage of today's swearing-in ceremony gets underway at 10 o'clock Manitoba time on CBC Radio 1 and on the CBC News app. As for Mélanie Joly, she is expected to stay on as Foreign Affairs Minister. This morning, she is closing out this week's G7 Foreign Ministers Summit outside Quebec City. Joly says the summit has wrapped up with unanimous support for a U.S. ceasefire proposal for the war in Ukraine. She says it's now up to Moscow to finalize the deal.
All G7 foreign ministers agree with the U.S. proposal of a ceasefire that is supported by Ukrainians, and we are now studying and looking at the Russian reaction. So ultimately, the ball is now in Russia's court.
As for a final statement from the G7 ministers, Joly says it is still being worked on. 4 school divisions in Winnipeg are raising their property taxes, some of them for the second year in a row. The Louis Riel, St. James Assiniboia, Seven Oaks, and Winnipeg school divisions have passed their budgets for the upcoming school year. To raise funds for growing operation expenses, the school divisions are hiking the tax levied to homeowners. This is the second year in a row Manitoba's NDP government has allowed school divisions to hike taxes, a move criticized by the opposition. Lauren Stone is the PC's finance critic.
It's clear that this NDP government is not doing their job to keep property taxes low for Manitobans. Every single day over the past few weeks, we have heard some kind of increase being proposed by school divisions across the province.
Manitoba's finance minister says a new property tax credit worth $1,500 will help lower those school taxes. The vacant Main Street lot where the Sutherland Hotel once stood won't stay vacant for long. That's according to the head of a nonprofit group that bought the 142-year-old landmark just days before it was gutted by fire earlier this year. Keith Wiebe-Gordon says he never considered backing out of the deal, but now he's looking at a construction project instead of a restoration.
This is an opportunity to let our imagination go free a little bit and let it self-organize from the bottom up. Let the community speak, let government, business, other groups speak, let the Indigenous voice be heard, and see what it will develop to.
Wiebe-Gordon says he hopes to begin construction as soon as possible on a project that will include vibrant businesses on the ground floor and up to 100 affordable rental units. Finally, a Manitoba fishing guide says he's had to tow over 100 people off Lake Winnipeg since early January. Brady Kingsland lives near Lake Winnipeg. He says a recent video posted to Facebook of a truck stuck in the middle of the lake on Monday is one of many incidents this fishing season on the lake. Manitoba RCMP confirmed 2 people had to be rescued when their truck got stuck during a snowstorm. Kingsland says people are not taking the weather seriously or are ill-prepared to be out there.
It's going to take someone getting seriously injured or unfortunately death that to where people will just be like, oh, shoot, I got to actually grab the right stuff. Because, I mean, when it gets bad out here, you cannot see your hand in front of your face.
You can hear that full interview coming up on CBC Manitoba's Radio Noon. That is your CBC News from Winnipeg.
All right, Lauren Donnelly, thank you.
Thank you, Marcy.
Also, thanks to Megan Ketcherson and Aaron Broman, as well as Abby Adeyemi, May McKillop, and Kevin Nipatebo. That's our live crew. In addition, our associate producers, I'd like to thank people overall in our unit who worked on all of our programs this week in current affairs. They are Corey Funk, Kalkadan Mulageta, Sierra Sanders, Carmen Ponto, Chidi Akuma, Marshall Hodgins, Dylan Longhurst, Issa Kickson, and Chloe Friesen. Just about the nicest people you'll ever meet. Our hosts in unit are Faith Fundal, Nadia Kidwai, Marjorie Dalhouse, and filling in Margot Watt. Producer in unit, Wendy Parker. Current affairs reporter, Shanley Vidal is our community reporter, and Jim Agapito in unit. As well as other YouTube producers that helped out this week, Travis Peterson and Brad Lillies. Nellie Gonzalez is the overall show's producer in our current affairs unit, and Leif Larson is the senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba. And additional thanks to Robin Summerfield, who was doing some fill-in work this week producing. Thanks, everybody. I know it's a lot of shows and a lot of hours. A reminder, 10 o'clock, we're carrying the live special of the Prime Minister-designate. Mark Carney is going to be sworn in today, so we're going to have a new prime minister officially, and we'll find out what that smaller cabinet looks like. We're going to give the last word to Abby here. Be careful driving later. It's going to get wet and snowy.
Yeah, it's going to be a snowfield day across the province. Cloudy skies, chilly conditions. The south will see rain turn to freezing, rain and snow, while the north is bracing for heavier snow.
No doubt. All right, we'll talk to you on Monday, Abby. And we'll talk to you on Monday as well, listeners. Thank you for being with us today on Information Radio on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Take care. Have a great weekend.